Fabulous. And I mixed it with a little water.
Why can't I hear them?
Pipe and a guy actually came up. And said, hey.
That's just, you know,
I don't know his name, but he came up and said, hey, you find that pipe? He says, give or take. Grabbed the little, like,
Yes.
3/4 rigid,
And that's
6-inch
okay.
nipple, threaded on each end.
you
I
know,
don't know his name, but he came up and said, hey, you find that pipe? He says, give or take. Grabbed the little, like,
Yes.
3/4 rigid,
And
6-inch
that's okay.
nipple, threaded on each end.
you
I
know,
don't know his name, but he came up and said, hey, you find that pipe? He says, give or take. Grabbed the little, like,
Yes.
3/4 rigid,
And
6-inch
that's okay.
nipple, threaded on each end.
you
I
know,
don't know his name, but he came up and said, hey, you find that pipe? He says,
Yes. So just walk out to outside. It's possible now. It's right now. It's basically Most of Southern data. Work systems from south to bring down. Just like these proposals south about. It's the partial freedom drive continues. We're now 7 days now.
But then we're hearing the feedback, I think she doesn't have her.
Yeah, well, you may not want to see it because you may not be able to.
Welcome to the warm weather down here.
Tell her to stay on mute except when she's speaking. And when she's speaking, she's turns off mute. Did you good with that, Mr. Pittman?
It was right chilly this morning.
Magic number, the blankets.
Because I don't know.
The all night, my wife.
That
goes,
comes
if I was-
for numbers and
It's just-
versus-
it's just a couple years, it's a- And then it's gonna be nice.
Did you good with that, Mr. Pittman?
I know. It was right chilly this morning.
Magic number, the blankets.
And I have to, they have.
The all night, my wife. goes, if I was- It's just a couple years. And then it's gonna be nice.
Did you good with that, Mr. Pittman?
I know. It was right chilly this morning.
Magic number, the blankets.
And I have to, they
The
have.
all night, my wife. goes, if I was- It's just a couple years.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the January 7th Waxahachie Grove Town Council meeting. We can all please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if we could have a moment of silence, and I'd like to have us all reflect on the presidency of Jimmy Carter who passed last week. Valerie, we have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Shore,
Is it?
Councilmember Councilmember Danowski here. Councilmember Manila is currently not here. Vice Mayor Herzog is attending via Zoom.
Here.
Go Mars.
Thank you. Mayor Kane,
Present.
Town Manager Ramalia,
Here.
Town Attorney Torcivia.
Here.
Public Works Director Gallant.
Present.
Okay, this is the portion of the evening where we allow comments from the public on non-agenda items where they can interact with council. Do we have anybody who has put in a card?
No.
Nobody?
No.
Well, that's a conundrum, isn't it?
For the record, Councilmember Manila is here.
Any suggestions? Because the last time I started the meeting before 6:30, I got some very negative feedback from the community.
And me.
So one suggestion would be that in the future, you change your agenda to say 6 to 6:30 or whenever, if it's 6:05, it's 6:05, so people know it doesn't have to wait till 6:30.
Strongly recommend we do that since this is the second time that this has happened in recent months where we haven't had the comments. Is there, I know we have some. Anybody in the audience? Nobody wants to say anything.
I do.
Anything you want to say?
I-
Like you might want to say something.
Well, it's. I've got to change the batteries. Anyway, over the break between, I believe the letter was mailed out to town residents December 3rd. It was regarding site triangles. And it basically said if you have a corner lot, then you are responsible to make sure that 25 feet in either direction is clear so traffic can see each other coming.
Years or something or whatever,
Um,
or clear debris. You're talking about vegetated. clear.
Yes, clearing vegetative debris. Okay, that makes sense, I guess. Within the letter, it also says that if your driveway intersects a roadway, that you must have a 10-foot site triangle. So got a couple of calls from people saying, I have an enormous pine tree. I don't want to cut it down. My neighbor's stuff blocks this 10-foot site triangle. So, lots of people ask different questions, so I'm lobbing it out to staff. Is that even enforceable on private property? I mean, isn't the onus on the driver of the car coming out the driveway to make sure that they don't drive out into traffic? Because it said in the letter that starting January 13th, code is going to go around and cite people and put them in code and make them comply and all this other stuff.
It's in our code. I know it's in the code. I'm assuming it's enforceable, just like building permits, everything else are enforceable. And it's for the safety of the driving public, so they don't run into each other.
So what if you don't have a relationship with your neighbor?
We have a lot of that.
Yeah, we have a lot of that. I know.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I mean, legally, there's, well, at least what I've been told is legally, you have the golden, straight up from your fence line, you can cut. I don't think you can cut stuff on the neighbor's property. Honestly, that's a good question. I'll have to look into that and get our, maybe, Mr. Torsivi wants to still opine and how one would deal with that.
Yeah,
Ask the neighbor to cut it back.
If it's on your property, it's your property, but if it's your neighbor's property, then it's the neighbor's responsibility. It's not your responsibility to go to your neighbor and say, you've got to cut down your tree.
What I'm saying is if something on their property blocks the 10 foot from your driveway, because your driveway happens to be, let's say, right next to theirs, because that
Right.
happens a lot, we have shared easements, then who's gonna get cited?
Not you.
Not you, even though you don't have the
Yeah.
10 foot clearance from your
Right,
driveway?
right. It would be if anybody, the neighbor.
I mean,
Because the neighbor is
realistically,
blocking
yeah,
it.
realistically, it would be the neighbor, because I've seen cases where a neighbor will build a fence on their neighbor's yard just to be spiteful, call code enforcement, and tell them they put a fence in without a permit, even though the neighbor didn't have anything to do with it, it was the guy on the other side. And code's gonna go after whoever's property that fence is on.
Madam Councilmember, if I can just add some clarification for, especially as it relates to the trees. There's, Article 105 relates to the site distance and the site distance triangles. And there's specific language for trees, not necessarily that the tree would have to be cut down in its entirety, but that the limbs and foliage have to be trimmed between the height of 30 inches and 8 feet. So as long as you're maintaining clear trunk between those distances, you wouldn't necessarily need to cut the tree down. And there's other specifications in here about how you would treat fences and walls, fire hydrants, and some other types of improvements.
And thank you for that. And that makes sense, keep the branches trimmed so you can see. Let's say somebody legitimately has wild, crazy brush on their own property and sable palm or whatever tree that you would need to take down. Does said person need to pay for a permit to do that, or would that be a no fee permit?
Well, tree trimming doesn't require a permit.
But if
Tree
you were,
trimming,
had to take the tree out.
if it's an exotic, you would not have to have a permit. If it's a native tree, we would probably want to work with you about how to keep the tree there and trim it. I would also like to say, since you brought this topic up, that we did have some type of snafu with the mail because not everybody got the December 3rd letter in and around December 3rd. So we are not, and I'm glad you asked this in a public meeting, we are not enforcing until February because we do not know when people got the letters.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
on the subject of enforcing code, when will you be starting to enforce the RV?
February also, because we've sent out a couple of mailings and we've been trying to work with people to help them get to compliance before we start enforcing.
And how many people do we have in compliance with RV?
Not many. We're in the less than 20 realm.
Okay.
Yeah. I think this year that we'll be focusing, as we always do, on the over fours first. And we can make a report to you after our first month in March.
Okay. Robert?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. We came up with a new FDA ordinance that allowed small projects,
Mhm.
maintenance. And we came up with the
The form?
forms and the process associated with that where people can actually apply
Well, that's
for that.
interesting you asked that question because we brought the forms forward to the council, but for some reason, there's some need to make some small changes to those forms and they've not been integrated into the system yet. So I actually told a resident, that's what those forms are created for, and you can use this email as between me, as you're okay to bring in Phil until the form is, widely published.
Okay, so
So
it's not on the website yet.
it is not on the website yet.
Is it gonna be part of this new?
Yes, it will.
This leads me to another question
Mm-hmm.
is, you got the building department, the building official, which is building,
Mhm,
and then you have the floodplain manager,
mhm.
which is floodplain. Now, those are two distinct different permitting roads, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But what I'd like you to know is that, and it happened over the holidays, so it's not finalized yet. What we did as we were going towards the new system is we had all the different stakeholders lay out all the forms, all the hard forms here, and go through the website so that we don't have them in multiple places, so that if you're looking at floodplain, you'll still get the same floodplain application you get if you're putting in your site development form for the house that you're building.
Like
So,
today I was looking for a right-of-way permit
mhm,
and it wasn't under permits anywhere. It was
Right.
under the district.
mhm.
So-
I know, and that's what we're trying to fix so that we get to all permits from the same place. So I think we should see that when we finalize the implementation of the software, which, by the way, we are having a presentation on. And our attorney tells me that if you all are inclined to do so, we could start those presentations earlier, unless someone else would like to speak.
Is Marge with us?
Marge is with us.
Oh, she's raising her hand.
Marge had a question.
Okay, go Marge.
Hey, Marge.
Hi, it's cold out here, just like it is near you, I'm sure. And the question I had relates to what was brought up about mail delivery. I would like to know if someone can look into why our mail is being delivered like 8 o'clock at night. In many instances, I know that they have moved most of the mail service over toward State Road 7 and Southern, but they said that they were going to keep ours as full service and all of the mailboxes, but the delivery is a problem.
We'll look into it.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I'm sorry, what are you suggesting? What presentation?
Well, we can certainly talk about our upcoming software implementation, which we're working on for the next 2 weeks. We have the representative from the software company, Gina Lawrence, in the audience, and she was going to give everyone an update. We're doing a soft start on it.
Do we need to have an agenda approval first, don't you think?
We would, and that's why I'm asking you if you'd be so inclined to do those presentations
Well,
before.
again, I got reamed out from a number of different people
Mhm.
last time for starting the bulk part of the meeting before 6:30, so I think we need to implement what Glenn said for the future. But although I hate to have all these people sitting here, I don't want to do that. So how about if we just take a 5 to 10 minute break and then start maybe 5 minutes early? Does that work for everybody? Is
Yes.
everybody okay
Yeah.
with that? Just so
That sounds
we
good.
don't have any negative feedback? Okay.
Okay, I would like for you to meet the people that came to talk to me last Friday.
with one public comment for a non-agenda item, so we're gonna go ahead and let that happen before we start the regular meeting. That way?
Mr. McClendon?
Todd McClendon, 3041 D Road. I just wanted to bring up, there's still that discussion about the Okeechobee Boulevard extension, which would divide our town in half. And we have a lot of people here tonight, and I'd like to see if there's alternative means for getting traffic eastbound as opposed to dividing our town. We need representatives that are going to help Loxahatchee Groves and extending Okeechobee Boulevard and ultimately widening Okeechobee Boulevard directly goes against the town of Loxahatchee Groves. So I'm hoping we have some alternative thoughts on that here tonight. Thank you.
Todd, don't leave. So, we were at a meeting a couple of weeks ago that was put together by Commissioner Sarah Baxter. And, regarding the cry out, which seemed like to be from Arden, regarding the fact that unfortunately, because of the tragedy with Palm Beach County Sheriff's Department, they were blocked ingress and egress. So the interesting thing I got from that was a lot of folks from Arden actually had other options. One option was, since they seemed to be the next annexation into Wellington is working their way that way, that one gentleman said, just open a road across the street along the canal and take us out to 50th. And that seemed to be the most non-invasive option and would not affect Loxahatchee Groves, Fox Trail, Deer Run. There are a lot of residential communities and rural communities that would be affected by the extension and widening of Okeechobee that would be devastating to many of us. So I thought that was a great option and maybe falls a little more harder on Wellington since they are heading that way with their annexation. So with all you out there in the audience, please, hear us when we come before you to try to fight the fight to keep us rural and stop the division of Loxahatchee Groves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you take it back?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, kind of, no. So here we go. I'm
Alright,
trying to
good.
find. I've been on a purge in my office and found a letter from 2020. And it was addressed to Jamie Titcomb, and it was from David L. Ricks, the county engineer. Is Mr. Ricks still the county engineer? Okay. And for the representatives in the audience, this is how important Okeechobee is to us. And this is a comment that we were presented from Mr. Ricks. And I realize everybody is doing their job, but there has got to be some sort of better solution. Take them out through 50th like that was offered. But anyway, within this letter, it says, my letter today is to again remind the town of Loxahatchee Groves that Okeechobee Boulevard within the town limits is maintained by Palm Beach County. Therefore, the county has ultimate authority on the widening and extension of this road pursuant to Florida Statute 336.02. Again, everybody's needs are important, but for the representatives that are here tonight and, genuinely concerned about our rural character and our well-being, this is what we're up against. So there's got to be a better way, than a 4-lane Okeechobee with lights and, just massive, massive amounts of traffic. Thank you, Mayor.
And not to beat a dead horse, but I'd just like to add this. One of the go-to things was that it's been on the TPA for 40 years. That's what everybody kept going back to and kept being said. Well, I have a couple of comments about that. The first comment is it's also been taken off twice that I know of in the last 5 years. So there's a reason for that. It's because it would be invasive of our town. It would destroy our town. It is our main street. It actually used to be named Middle Road, and I'm going to request that we rename it Middle Road so that everybody is aware that it is our main street. The second comment I'm going to make is that 40 years ago, I was a young girl in law school and had a lot of different plans for what might happen in the future. My life, the topography of my life looked very different back then than it does now. And the topography of this area and this community and the intervening communities is very different than it was 40 years ago. Look at the map. It was open space now. Then it is now people's homes. It is now what people have worked their entire lives to achieve. One gentleman who lives at the very end of Okeechobee as it exists now has a beautiful property that he spoke about at the meeting that Phyllis talked about with trees and everything. And going through that will destroy what he and his wife have worked their entire life to achieve. So the same plea, you got to help us. This cannot happen. It cannot happen. There has to be a different solution than destroying not just us, but Fox Trails, Deer Run, and all those intervening communities. There has to be a different solution. Another solution that was brought forward was that those people could have left Arden and gone west. The Deer Run HOA director made that comment. He said that you didn't have to come east. There's just as many things out west. There's a hospital out there if you need it. There's grocery stores out there. There's plenty of services out in that direction as well. So there were other solutions available, not just being stuck in your home. They claim that they weren't allowed to leave their community at all. I don't know whether Captain Turner can address that or not. I find that hard to believe, but but anyhow, please help us. Please help us fight this fight. It's an important battle. Before we proceed, I'd just like to recognize that former Commissioner McKinley is here in the audience with us. I know not in that capacity, but thank you for being here tonight. And now would like to talk. Oh, Robert, do you have something to say before we start? About the agenda?
Well, we need to do our condition deletion.
Correct. That's what I was just going to call for. Is that what you're ready to do?
I'm ready.
Okay, go, Robert. Robert is ready. We are going to talk.
Is there any addition?
That's what I was just going to say, but you could set it for
I
me.
don't know if there's any.
Are
Mayor,
there any additions, deletions?
staff is
Robert.
requesting to remove item number 5.
Item number 5 is stricken by staff. Anything else?
Motion to approve the agenda as written minus item number 5.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Marge?
Aye.
Okay, passes 5-0. We now have a presentation about the software.
Good evening, Mayor Kane and council members. My name is Gina and I am with the Building Permitting Software, MGO. I know I met you all last year at the council meeting and we're excited to share that we will be live with our software on Monday, this upcoming Monday, January 13th. We've been working closely with staff to implement everything. We've decided to perform the full data import before we go live. So all of the historical data will be in the new program. So nobody has to work through parallel systems, including our residents and contractors, as well as we integrated the permitting, code enforcement, BTR, and work order management into that single interface. So this week, yesterday, and today, I've been on site training staff. I'll continue to do that throughout the week, as well as all of next week for go live and as needed as well. I live, unfortunately, unincorporated county, but only a few blocks away here in Loxahatchee. I do love it here. So I'm always available, as well as we do have a soft training for our contractors this Saturday. We just have a few contractors that'll come in. We'll show them the ropes. It helps to be a little more one-on-one. I could show them how to set up their user profiles, assist in even submitting those permits right here on site if they need the help. And we're also planning a larger training with the contractors in the near future for the evening. As well as I told staff, if anybody needs assistance, I'm happy to go to the contractor's office or just meet them here to help them submit a permit. So we are very excited. We don't feel that there's going to be a lot of training that's needed for the community because MGO is actually live on 11 jurisdictions in Palm Beach County alone. So a lot of people are used to it, and we've made it very simple. For instance, to go against what you were saying, if you need to apply for a permit through the MGO portal, we have attached all the necessary forms for each work type, so you're not toggling between the MGO platform and the Loxahatchee Groves Town Hall website. All of those specific applications, affidavits, checklists are all available within each permit. So we do try to make it as simple, and we're excited to roll out. Any questions?
I'd like to know how you chose the contractors that are going to be at the soft training.
We just, any that's calling and have been interested in, we've kind of just been saying, we are rolling it out. Have you used it before? If not, we'd love to have you come out this Saturday. We didn't want to open it up fully to the public yet, only because then if you have an inordinate amount of people, it's hard to help them one-on-one. The volume's not that large to do a large contractor training like I've done with other jurisdictions. So we kind of wanted to piece it and give them more of that one-on-one approach.
Thank you. Robert, did you have, that was your question. Okay. Anybody else? No. Thank you so much. For your
Thank
time this
you.
evening.
Gina? I just think it's important to say that after we finish doing the building permit rollout, we're also doing the code enforcement.
Mhm.
We're switching all of our systems over to MGO.
Yeah.
So code enforcement will be directly behind building permits,
Mhm.
hopefully making it a lot more user-friendly and easy for the public. And also we're doing Public Works, which will also have a public-facing
Absolutely.
portal that we haven't been able to have before.
And the great part about that is anybody in permitting, when they receive a permit application, everything does speak to each other. It is one software. So you're not working in parallel systems, and you're able to see if there is a violation before you actually accept it. You could stay on top of any kind of violation fees, and everybody's not switching around. So there's a lot less room for error just being under one platform.
Thank you so
Gina.
much for
Thank
being
you.
here. Okay, we're on to item number 2, a legislative update.
Sorry. Good afternoon, Mayor and members of council. Here with us today is Charisma Adams, the Director of Economic Development and representative from the office of Congresswoman Sherfless McCormick. Ms. Adams will provide an update on congressional legislative efforts and the congressional appropriations process, including key legislative initiatives, upcoming appropriations, and critical congressional bills affecting local governance infrastructure, and recapping the 2024 legislative session. She will also provide a brief understanding of how the federal appropriations process works, including the timeline for congressional legislative action. At this time, Mayor, I'll turn it over to Ms. Adams.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Town Council, Town Attorney, as well as the Town Clerk and all the leadership. Thank you so much for having me this evening. Again, like you said, I'm Charisma Adams. I serve as the Economic Development Director for Congresswoman Sheila Sherfless McCormick. She's unable to be here today because today is a voting day in Washington, so, but she definitely sends her regards and wants you to know if she was not tied up having to vote today, she would definitely be here herself. Over the past legislative session, her work has really demonstrated and been focused on her commitment to veterans, to seniors, and to working families here in Congressional District 20, as well as Loxahatchee Groves. Over the past 2 years, she's brought $14.4 million in federal funding back to District 20 to fund projects ranging from improving water quality to comprehensive crime reduction, with $3.8 million pledged to create more affordable housing opportunities. And she supported and advocated for 28 grant awards to qualified nonprofits in 2024 for a total exceeding $67 million. Just yesterday, it was announced that Florida will receive $33 million in federal funding for low-emission transportation infrastructure. So if that's something that you are interested in, our office is definitely here to assist you with going after some of that funding. The Congresswoman's driving commitment to improving lives through legislation led her to author and introduce 29 bills, with 3 successfully signed into law this last session. Those 3 bills are the Access to AEDs Act, which gives schools access to life-saving tools and CPR treatment to prevent emergency situations from turning fatal for student athletes. This bill passed Congress as part of the HEARTS Act and was signed into law on December 24th. The Healthy Foundations for Homeless Veterans Act, which permanently authorizes a housing voucher program for homeless veterans and veterans at risk of homelessness. This bill passed Congress as part of the Senator Elizabeth Dole 21st Century Veterans Healthcare and Benefits Improvement Act and was signed into law on January 2nd. And the bipartisan Counting Veterans Cancer Deaths Act was enacted as part of the fiscal year 2024 military construction, Veterans Affairs and related agencies appropriations bill signed into law on March 9th by President Biden. This law ensures that veterans' cancer cases are included in national cancer surveillance efforts and increases opportunities for veterans with cancer to access innovative clinical trials. The VA began implementation of this on October 1st, 2024. Congresswoman Shirley McCormick also signed over 240 letters urging government officials and agencies to lower housing costs, to pass disaster relief funding, and to implement critical healthcare reform to cut prescription drug costs. As a champion for community needs, our office successfully closed over 2,000 constituent cases this Congress, helping her constituents navigate and resolve issues with federal agencies. We replied and sent 70,000 letters and emails throughout the districts addressing concerns to our residents and ensuring their voices were heard. We was actively engaged in our district and hosted and attended over 650 events this Congress. As a ranking member of the House Veteran Affairs Subcommittee on Technology Modernization during the 118th Congress, she worked to expand veteran benefits and protect veterans' access to quality and affordable health care. As a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Congresswoman Shirley McCormick worked diligently during the 118th Congress to expand trade relations with the Caribbean and with Africa to create mutually beneficial agreements, which brought more business to our South Florida ports. The Congresswoman is incredibly excited about the new Congress and the opportunities that lie ahead. She's grateful to all of our people in District 20 for sending her back to Washington to be our voice. As she looks ahead, her work will be guided by four key values this year: to continue to deliver for Floridians, to grow our economy, to push for affordable housing, and to fight for accessible health care. Above all, she's committed to continuing to be the voice for South Florida in Washington, and it is her top priority to ensure that she can guarantee access to affordable housing and accessible health care for our seniors, our veterans, and our families. Just a few weeks ago, we sent out a survey to all of our elected officials. By now, you all should have received it. If you have not, please make sure our office knows, and we will resend. She sent out a survey to all of our elected officials, so as we enter into this new Congress, she will be able to identify what your priorities are for your individual towns and municipalities, and which issues you would like to see her advocate and fight for in Washington. That survey went out the week after Christmas. So again, if you did not get that, please let our office know. She'll be taking all of that information from the survey, and at the beginning of February, she'll be hosting a luncheon with the elected officials. We'll be doing one luncheon in Palm Beach, one luncheon in Broward, to release the results from the surveys, as we've heard from you, and to tell and to share with you all her plan for advocacy on the issues that you addressed in your surveys. Also now, we're entering into our appropriations period. We do not have the guidance yet to the specific dates as of yet. So the House Appropriations Committee has not released the dates to us as to when the projects need to be selected and identified from each member. However, each member gets to select 15 projects from out their district that go into the appropriations bill. And so again, if you have projects within the town that you would like us to look at, that you need federal funding for, I am actually the person that heads up that process. So please make sure I will come out to you. We can sit down. We can talk about your projects. We can talk about, because we've done this is our fourth round of projects, and we've learned quite a bit along the way of the types of projects that, are really good in terms of securing funding, what your applications need to involve. We can work together with your federal team as well. So it's not something that we're going to do in a silo. We work well with your federal team, and we know all of those individuals as well. So as we're entering into the appropriations period, we will be looking at projects. We'll be having meetings with you. Then you'll submit all those applications as soon as we open up. We will let everyone know when the portal opens. It'll be on our website. And generally, your lobbyist will contact us directly and just send all of the applications into us. There'll be a period of time, normally the period of time is about 2 to 3 weeks, that the Congresswoman and our team, we review all of the projects and we look over all of those. She makes her selections. At the time she makes her selections, we notify the towns and the cities whether your projects have been selected. And at that time, we give you the outlay of how you can expect that project to move through. I will be the person that'll be in contact with you throughout the process. I'll let you know as your project goes to committee markups. I'll let you know if there are any changes to your project after it leaves committee markups, and then we'll follow it all the way through the omnibus until it's signed into the budget. So that's how that process works. We're entering that process right now. And if our office can be of any assistance to you, we are here. We have one office in Palm Beach County. I'm in that office in Palm Beach County, so I'm local. We have an office in Tamarack. So if you need any constituent services, though, all the constituent services happen in our Tamarack office. Again, we can help your residents. And I just want to put it on the record. I'll have it so if any residents in the town are listening and they have any federal needs, whether it's Medicaid, Medicare, whether it's immigration, whether it's, any federal services, they can reach our office at 954-733-2800. And interestingly enough, we did get a call today about your mail. So we did get a call in our office about, so it was interesting that you brought that up tonight. We got a call earlier today about someone not receiving mail, and they wanted to put in a case with the U.S. Post Office. So we did hear that today as well. So if there's anything that I can do to help or our office can do to help, we're here. If you have any questions, you can feel free to ask them. Sure.
Regarding the homeless veterans and the vouchers,
Yes.
do you have the information online on Congresswoman McCormick's website?
So the full summary of the bill is on congress.gov in terms of all of the language in the bill.
Where do we go for help?
Oh, so you help with getting a voucher. You can call
sending people.
You can call that 954 number. That'll give you any assistance that any residents needs from anything relative to a federal agency. That is the number that they would call. All of our caseworkers are available at that number. And when they call, they'll be assigned to the caseworker that deals with whether it's Veterans Affairs, whether it's immigration, whatever that portfolio item is.
Okay, and then can you repeat what you were saying about low emissions?
Sure. Just yesterday, Florida is going to receive $33 million in federal funding for low emission transportation infrastructure.
Does that include tractors? Because everybody out here has tractors.
I'm gonna have to get back with you on that. I don't know. I don't know, but I'll take the no. I'll take the no. Yes, we do. Yes, we are aware. We work a lot with our rural community, and so there is a lot of set aside and designated funding for rural communities, rural equipment, rural businesses. There is a lot that is set aside for rural through our Department of Agriculture. So yes, there is been. I don't know if it's specifically in that. I will get you an answer.
I'm just kind of
okay.
about the emissions.
I don't know. I don't know what the language is.
But thank you for the
Thank
information.
you so much. Are there any other questions?
Anybody else?
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you
for
so
being
much.
here
Thank you for
tonight.
coming.
Okay, we're on to item number 3, but before we begin, Mr. Book, I'd just like to congratulate you on your nomination for the Nobel Peace Prize, and I'd like to.
Good evening again, Madam Mayor. Sammy Brown, Town Clerk Assistant. Tonight, we welcome lobbyists from Ronald Book, PA, to provide an update on legislative efforts for the town of Loxahatchee Groves. They will discuss appropriations, the state legislative session schedule, the key priorities for the town to consider. This includes the proposed 2025 legislative priorities. Following their update, council input is encouraged to ensure that the town's interests are effectively represented. Provided in this agenda item is the current legislative schedule, the 2025 legislative agenda, and information regarding the House and Senate committee.
Packet, guys. Excuse me, I'm so sorry.
No worries.
Everybody should have a separate packet. for
Yep.
this.
It was a supplement provided on your left.
Like this.
The main change to the document was to add in our large pump station and weir and gate refurbishment, which hopefully we can work with our federal folks in your office. And we also put in a little bit more information about who this year's state legislature is. Is that right, Sandy?
That includes the House and Senate committee leadership, their chairs, vice chairs, and who serves on those specific committees. And the other information provided by our lobbying team. At this time, I'll turn it over to our town lobbyist.
And before you begin, Mr. Book, I'd just like to recognize that
Sorry, Sarah Baxter has just entered the chair. Commissioner Baxter is just, welcome to our meeting.
Mayor, council members, Madam Manager, City Attorney, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity, and not only on behalf of my firm and Ronna Brown, who does all of your work and gets little of the credit because I get all the credit. I also want to recognize Sean Pittman and Sam Peltier from his firm. We get the opportunity to represent you. And as you know, when we applied for the opportunity, we promised you we would give you a full effort, and I think we've done that. And I think that the returns have been great for the community. And so we're proud to have the opportunity to continue. So it's good to see you all again. Let me sort of set the tone for where I think things are going. And I think I've already shared with you once before that the revenue outlook for the state, while the world is great and Florida is great and we are booming, with the loss of all of the federal funds, the ARP dollars, the rescue plan dollars, all of the various funds that local governments and the state were getting are now gone and done. Everybody's done spending. The revenue outlook, which we follow extremely closely, Amy Baker's shop, she's the state's economist, they meet and they periodically re-update actual sales tax collections, premiums tax collections, and the like, but they also provide that 5-year forecast that the House and the Senate follow. We've spent a lot of time with the new Senate President, Ben Albritton, who's from just up the road from here, and a true rural, if you will, agriculture, community-oriented lawmaker. His family is a 3rd, 4th generation citrus farmers and the like, and the new Speaker of the House, Danny Perez. And I can tell you in our conversations with them, they believe if they continue at the rate they've been spending over the last 5 years, that 3 years from now, we will have a $6 or $7 billion deficit and thus have to come in and cut. Historically, the fastest 2 growing areas of the state's budget outside of transportation, because so much of transportation comes federally and comes from gas taxes and the trust fund, have been the Medicaid budget and the corrections budget. Today, the fastest growing part of the budget is pre-K to 12. Why? Because what we've done is we've created this elaborate, non-financial based set of scholarships that I can assure you, not income-based, I love because I take care of my grandkids' educations. They all go to private schools. And so I love those scholarships. But the truth be told, when you create a scholarship program and you have no real, and I love it because frankly, I'm a donor taxpayer, right? Shouldn't I get something back? Well, I do. Bright Futures, right? I get that opportunity. Reason why they've never done income based on Bright Futures is because they don't want to penalize folks that are donor taxpayers. But we've also said you can homeschool, virtual school, and oh, by the way, you can set up 3 kids, 5 kids, 9 kids, get those scholarships. All of a sudden, you got a business running out of your home. All of that has grown dramatically, and that will continue to grow because more and more people are taking advantage of not only the homeschool piece of it and setting up their own homeschools and their own virtual schools, but more and more kids are going to private schools and equalizing and balancing out and utilizing choice. And choice is good. And we all determined back when Jeb Bush was governor and we realigned traditional public schools with charter public schools, because all charter schools are public schools. We began that, if you will, evolution, and it is eating up tons and tons of money and will continue to do so. where will the state spend its money going forward in this next cycle? Number one, and I'm looking straight over at the manager when I say this, projects are going to shrink. Projects are going to shrink. Does it mean they're not going to fund projects? No, it doesn't mean that. But if you listen to the Speaker of the House, he will tell you projects are going to shrink. We're not going to fund billions of dollars of projects. But if you listen to the priorities of Senator Albritton, President Albritton, Speaker Perez, I believe the things you're focused on, water, stormwater, wastewater, canal embankments, resiliency, I believe those dollars will still be there. And I believe they will be there in meaningful ways. You want to focus on trails. I've heard it before coming here tonight, but I believe that there will be monies put into those programs. I think going after line item budget approvals for things like land acquisition, Madam Manager, if we simply go in and ask for a budget item to acquire land, we will lose. We will fail. If we go in for projects that have grant programs established, and that does include trails. And if you look at the way the manager and her team have put your agenda item together for tonight, it doesn't say go for a specific project. What it says is go and urge the legislature to fund those programs that give us an opportunity to apply and then allow us to work that process the way we know how to work it. And we will, and we do. I think that the governor has demonstrated a track record, as other governors before him have done, that if there is a program to fund a particular kind of project, and let's just talk, Madam Manager, to you about land acquisition. Florida Communities Trust exists for a reason. So let's apply, and then let's go push the legislature to fund it adequately so that if we get on that approved list, they can actually pay for it. They can actually buy it. You know, I've said to local governments over the years about parks. Well, we want a park. Well, I'm glad you want a park. Did you apply for the parks list? Did you apply through FDEP? Small project, large project. And let's be clear. The grant program does have limitations. And I think that one of the failings of the process have been not raising, if you will, the levels on both large project submission for FERDAP, which is the Florida Recreational Development Access Program. I think that FERDAP limiting those smaller projects to 50 grand, 100 grand, they don't get you very much. They don't buy you very much. Large project, $200,000, don't get you very much. They have failed. So when we talk about things, Madam Manager, going forward, the way you've approached this is smart. But one of the things that we talk very little about anymore are how do we raise those caps on those programs. I think one of the things that's come from term limits, back in the day, I've been around too long now I know where the bones are all buried. You know, they wouldn't go home without funding the full FERDAP list. Why? Because it gave the Meg Weinbergers and the Gail Heralds the opportunity to come back here 3 weeks after a legislative session and present you with a check for $200,000 or $50,000. And it couldn't get vetoed because the governor's not going to veto those lists that his professional team have ranked. And so whether it's FERDAP or it's cultural facilities grants, or it's library grants, it's Carl, or it's any of the other Florida Community Trusts, they don't veto those things. But term limits, memories got vague. Staff felt like they should fund some other things. So they didn't fund those lists the way they historically did in the past. They're moving back in that direction. We are helping to do that. So agenda items like yours tonight, and I wish I could have written that because I didn't write your agenda, you wrote the agenda. I would have encouraged you to be moving in the direction of encourage funding those larger programs. We know how to work that process. We know how to work FDEP. We know how to work them. And by the way, ignoring the Water Management District or the Inland Navigation District potential, while their funds have shrunk over the years, there's still money out there. And going to visit with the staff at the Inland Navigation District, at the Water Management District, to determine whether or not we qualify for things, those are things that I would encourage as we continue to build on our working relationship, as we continue to build on the successes we've had. I think those are things that will occur. I think that one of the places that's going to shrink dramatically in this next 123, 124, 125 billion dollar budget, I can't tell you where that budget's going to land, but it'll be in that 122, 123, 124, 25 billion dollar range. I think higher education funding is going to drop dramatically. Does that concern an FAU? Does that concern a Palm Beach State College? Does that concern the University of Florida, Florida State, et cetera, et cetera? The answer is it does. But they've been raiding the budget so dramatically in the quest to become centers of excellence, which certainly the University of Florida has done. Certainly, if you go down south, you look at where FIU is today. Don't take my word for it. You look at the U.S. News and World Report rankings of where our public universities are today. They're all up there. But at some point, you got to say to those universities, it's incumbent upon you now to work from the leverage success of our first money in, going to your philanthropic donors, going out there and raising more and more and more on your own, and come back to us and ask us what we're willing to match for you as we move forward. I think big losers going forward, probably the University of Florida suffers, and I'm a Gator. Hey, do any of you know what a Gator's worst nightmare is? You have children and two grow up and go here, and one goes up and goes here. My friend goes here, and you got to write checks to those places. Yeah, you know, it is what it is. I figured out how to solve the problem with the University of Miami. For those of you in the audience, represent them, get your money back. But all that said, you've got the third phase of your water project on the list. It's a solid project. It's the last year of it. I'm confident about it. I feel good about it. Does it mean it'll happen? I can't tell you that. Do I think we should submit more than one project? I do. Do I think we should submit 5 or 6 projects? I don't. It would be a terrible mistake. You'll get a diminished return. Look, Meg is new, but they want to support her. Gail Harrell's seasoned. She's there. She wants to hear from you guys. She loves hearing from her local governments. Let her hear from each of you. Let her hear about your projects. Let her hear from you directly, not just from us. Make her say to you, she's willing to rank your project first or second, or at worst third on her list of priorities. Because what happens, and I've explained this to you before, what ultimately happens when you get down to that start of that second week of session, they're going to ask members, what are your 3, 4, and 5 priorities? That's first round into the subcommittees. Then they're going to ask you, as we move to the floor, as we move to full committee and then the floor, they'll say to you, did you lose something you got to have? And then we get to conference. And they're going to say to each member in each of those silos, Give us your number one, give us your number two, give us your number three. We're equalizers. And unfortunately, because we do so much budget work, lawmakers will rank somebody else ahead of us, knowing we're coming in right behind them to get stuff tucked away, which is why you have us. You have us to put blinders on your lawmakers, but you have us to put blinders on others in the budget process as we move along. Let me move off of the budget for just a minute and talk about 2 or 3 or 4 issues that I know matter to you. Number one, there is not anybody that lives in your town. There is not anybody that lives in this county that doesn't believe that the property and casualty insurance situation is not nauseating and disgusting. I will repeat a statement that my dear friend, the former Senate president, said when they passed the bill 4 years ago. There will be hell to pay if there's no relief. Well, I'm not sure where the hell is, and I'm not sure where the payment is. But the last time I checked, the payments were coming from us and not from the insurance companies coming back to us. And while I listened very intently to one of the talking head talk shows on Sunday on CBS, talking about how our insurance rates have somewhat gotten to a stable place, I don't know where in the hell they're coming from, because my property and casualty insurance rates in multiple properties have certainly not stabilized at all. And if you think property and casualty insurance is the only bad place, have you looked at your health insurance bill? Have you looked at your group rates? Have you looked at your auto rates? Because they're going up. They're not stable. They're not going down. So again, on the property and casualty side, I think they're going to attempt to look at things, but I will use this as an example of what I think is a flawed policy. How many in the room, not just on the dais, and Mayor, I know this is going beyond what's reasonable. I'm supposed to talk to you guys and not talk to your audience. But how many people in the room are insured by Citizens? Third of the room? Okay. So each of you, when you get your rate, any carrier who wants to take that rate, which by the way, is supposed to be actuarially sound, actuarially set, but any carrier who wants to take any of you and take you out of Citizens and charge you 20% more, you have no choice.
You got a letter.
You got the letter. Somebody's buying you up. Well, guess what? The VIG ain't in my pocket. The VIG is in their pocket. Because they've said, well, if Citizens says it's actuarially sound, now I'm going to take a look at it. And if my actuaries say, damn, I can make a 20% profit off of Phyllis's policy, I'll take 20% any day of the week. And so will everybody else in this room as profit. Because that's the margin so many businesses work off of. But oh, by the way, if the Citizens rate was set actuarially sound, there's profit in that number as well, because I'm building on my reserves. If you stay in Citizen, it's not about Citizen paying it all out. That's a flawed policy from my selfish perspective. And I admittedly represent nobody in the insurance space and have no interest in doing so. I think the second place that I think you'll see dramatic discussion is, what are we going to do about the condo and homeowners statute that is creating such tumult in the real estate marketplace? I again won't necessarily turn to the audience here because we're in a more rural part of this county. But go not too far east of here and find some of those 40 and 50 and 60-year-old buildings that are under reserved. They can't sell their units because nobody wants to buy them with a pig in the poke kind of, gee whiz, how much am I going to get hit with? Am I going to have to put up 100 grand? Am I going to have to put up 200 grand? Where am I going to get that money? Is the bank going to loan me that money? I doubt it. I think that will see some level of attention because while the Republican majority has grown dramatically in both houses, leadership and their consultants are not unmindful that those successes can reverse themselves in spite of increased Republican registrations dramatically. I was having this conversation with Commissioner Baxter just a couple of days ago. Almost 70,000 Republican new registrants since Election Day. There now is a 1.1 million registered voter advantage. But never take yourself so seriously that you don't take care of what's going on at home. Those two areas are two of the areas I think will garner the most amount of public substantive bill attention. The sore spot for you and for everybody else in local government is a little bill called Live Local. So we've had Live Local, we've had Live Local 2, and we're about to get Live Local 3. I couldn't possibly tell you whether they will pass a glitch bill or not. But if you all have coins and you're betting people, I'm happy to flip them with you because any one of us have just as good of an odds of guessing whether they will or won't pass another glitch bill to make changes. If you had asked me, Sean, Sam, Ronna, Gabby, 6.5 or 7 weeks into the 9-week session, would they capitulate and pass that Pasco County fix? I would have put a bundle of money on the table and said, absolutely not. But at the end of the day, they made it extremely difficult for President Passidomo to do anything other than pass the Pasco fix. And frankly, most of the other things that other local governments were concerned about fell by the wayside. How much of that will get picked up going forward, I don't know. I would say to you, going back for just a minute on substantive issues that are both money and substantive issues, follow the bouncing ball on the Seminole Compact money that has been committed to environmental type, if you will, preservation programs. It's $700+ million a year that's supposed to be coming in and get pledged. How much of that goes, Madam Manager, to the trails? How much of it goes to acquisition? I think those are things I can't possibly look into my crystal ball, as good as we are at prognosticating where we think the process is going. I can't possibly tell you where that is. Other issues you ought to be concerned about. And I know that the next one, you've heard me mention it before, and it probably has lesser potential impact here than in many of the larger municipal areas. But if they increase sovereign immunity limits, all it does is rob your taxpayers of their dollars. Accidents are going to happen. Claims bills, lawsuits are going to get filed, and juries will bring back results. I wrote a law review article, afraid to say when I wrote it. Don't you dare laugh. Don't you dare laugh, because I still am standing at the mic. I can roast you yet. 1977, I wrote a law review article on sovereign immunity and about protecting the king's money. The king's money are the monies entrusted to you as the kings and the queens of the taxpayers of your community. And you're supposed to guard it. There's a reason sovereign immunity was created. If you don't believe in protecting the taxpayers' dollars, and you want to simply open up your coffers to John Morgan and Morgan, and pay more and more out, then let's just do away with sovereign immunity limits altogether. We can do that. But let's stop talking about all these continued increases in sovereign immunity. What the hell did I leave out? I got 4 nodding, shaking heads behind me saying I've not left anything out. I suspect I have.
Just to talk about the fact that we really need to know when you differ from the League of Cities or.
I will.
Palm Beach
It's a good
Cities.
point.
Very important.
Good point. I think one of the things that the manager's done on your agenda, which I must tell you, Madam Manager, I don't know when I recall another city doing this, but she lined up the issues of the League of Cities that coincide with issues of interest to the town of Loxahatchee Groves. I think while I have said this to you before, and I believe the first night I was here when we had the long discussion about whether or not you should or shouldn't have legislative advocacy at the Capitol, I said to you, you hire us to be selfish and to be parochial and to fight for what matters to you, which is money. Bring it back. You paid dues to the Palm Beach League of Cities. You paid dues to the Florida League of Cities to handle global issues. Palm Beach County pays dues to the Florida Association of Counties to fight for global issues. School districts pay the School Board Association and the Superintendent Association for global funding formula issues. We should support what the league needs your lobby team to support, but we should not run lead for those issues. We shouldn't run lead for those. Or why are you paying those dues for them to hire 47 lobbyists to represent the association? And you've sent us up, oh, that's right, to protect the people in the audience and the people that watch your meetings, your taxpayers, your constituents. We're paid to do that. So when Sean says you should let us know when and where there's a difference, yes, you should. Because I assure you that the leagues are not going to point out that the town of Loxahatchee Groves doesn't agree with a particular position. That then becomes our responsibility to go to Senator Harrell and go to Representative Weinberger and make those points to them. That's our responsibility in those cases. With that, I again say, Mayor, first of all, thank you. It is, the recognition was appreciated. You get a phone call at 4:45 in the morning from Oslo, Norway, you know nothing about, but you know that if your phone's ringing, nothing good happens at 3 or 4 or 5 in the morning. You better answer it. It's one of your children or your grandchildren. We're extremely humbling. And so thank you. Try every day to make a difference in South Florida and in this state. Not because of my paid clients, but because we've got a responsibility to put something back and to make a difference, and I try to do that. So first of all, thank you. But to each of you on the dais, we consider it a privilege. We've said it to you before. We consider it a privilege to represent you. We consider it a privilege to represent your taxpayers. So thank you on behalf of both of our firms for that opportunity. And if you're willing, I'm happy to take whatever questions you all have.
Phyllis.
Mr. Book, this fourth New Year's was like a war zone in our town. And It's the worst. I can remember it being, and I've been here since before 1989. Can you speak on the fireworks issue? And because the fireworks seem to be changing, the fireworks that were exploding around us this year were more like dynamite and C4. It wasn't necessarily things that were going in the air, but what can we do to protect our rural? And we grow food here, we grow animals, and animals and explosives don't work. So what can we do to, protect Loxahatchee Groves from these?
I will say to
fireworks
you what I
explosions?
have said to a number of folks over the last period of time. I think that enforcement is significant and important. And I think I saw the fire guys and I see.
Yeah,
police
no,
there.
Captain Turner, but they're saying they can't enforce.
Here, that's, excuse me, and I'm gonna say it loud, and I'm gonna apologize for the semi-expletive without deleting it. That's bullshit. It's true, it's untrue. So let's just simply call it the way it is. If you let someone in a stand sell an aerial, and they're not one of 3 or 4 companies that were grandfathered in 20 years ago, they're illegal, period. And they should be seized. The number of illegal operations in Dade, in Broward, in Palm Beach, in Martin, Martin too, St. Lucie, Indian River, Hillsborough, I know them all. And I know who the legal ones are, and I know who the illegal ones are. They're operating illegally. They're selling out of retail stores that aren't fireworks stores. It's a criminal act. It is criminal. They should be arrested. We managed in a number of South Florida, south of Palm Beach County, in Broward and in Miami-Dade, to have law enforcement, particularly on the 4th, less on New Year's. But I can also tell you there were several very, very bad young children accidents this year with mortars. With all due respect, it's not the firecracker. It's probably not even the M80s. It's the 500 milligram illegal aerials that are making those booms that are creating the issues. Look, can livestock be spooked with a firecracker? Absolutely. But how many people are taking and lighting a fuse on a single firecracker and throwing it, or an M80 and throwing it? It's limited. It's the aerials. It's the 500 milligram stuff that shouldn't be sold. Just shouldn't be. And when police and fire tell their electeds, I pick up the phone and I ask them, what statute are they reading? And what are they reading in their own code? They're not reading it. They're choosing to take the provision that Senator Travis Hudson passed 3 years ago that says that on the 4th of July and New Year's Eve, you can blow them off. You can, but you still got to buy them legally. And so if you're buying them illegally in a tent, or you're buying them illegally in a retail clothing store, if they're walking out of a clothing store, if they're walking out of a market, a food market, a Walmart, a Target, you don't see them selling that crap. You see them selling sparkler products. You don't see them selling aerials.
What can we do regarding our codes and ordinance to protect our town from this? They're not selling them here is the problem.
Well,
right here.
We have to put forward for.
That's
the
what you
answer is
have
we have to get a local
PBSO.
bill.
That's what you got PBSO to do. So you pick up the phone and you call Rick Bradshaw. You pick up a phone and you call the county fire department. You pick up the phone and call those fire marshals and those fire chiefs. They know what to do. They know who's legal and they know who's not. You go down here to Phantom, they're legal. They're legal. The state 20 years ago put a moratorium on permits. You can't exceed the number of issued permits. If you, Phyllis, Councilwoman, I apologize.
No.
If you had a tent located on the street corner out here, and you gave 20 years ago, and you gave that permit up, you can come in and that permit can be replaced, but you can't add. Can't add to it. Can you sell aerials from a tent? In limited circumstances, yes, but only if you're one of the companies that are specifically allowed to sell aerials, and those are not any of the fly-by-nighters. There's a woman by the name of the fireworks lady. I can tell you I've been chasing her for 5 years. She ain't happy with me. Why? Because on the 4th of July, she got arrested. You know what she did? She hit every local government in Dayton, Broward with 119 requests 6 weeks after the 4th of July, looking for every bit of correspondence about me. You know what? God bless you, ma'am. God bless you. You continue to pursue that, because what I believe I've done is make certain that law enforcement and firefighters are enforcing the law as written. Does it solve your 4th of July and your New Year's Eve problem completely? The answer is no. Can you further restrict it under your ordinances? No, you can't. You can't, because it's preempted to the state.
Okay.
Long-winded answer to your question.
No,
We
thank you.
do have a opinion from our attorney, our town attorney, and that what we would need to do is actually seek a legislative exception like they did in Wellington for the equestrian preserve, but that would come under a local bill, which we're too late to file. So
You
let's put
are, and that was a
let's-
one-off, and that when Wellington did it, it was a one-off that came immediately after Travis Hudson passed that, Senator Hudson passed that bill. I don't, and there've been several others. I'll use Southwest Ranches. Southwest Ranches, rural, just like you, out in West Broward, animals, wildlife, and the like. They've been trying the last 3 years to pass a local bill. I suspect they filed it again this year. That would only affect their community. I'm very doubtful that any of those local bills will pass. You had lawmakers who wanted to lift all the restrictions. All of them, all of them, all of them. You know, this is a, if you will, limitation on my rights on those holidays to blow them off. And so I don't see it. So giving you the honest answer.
Okay, and to answer Mr. Pittman's question, I think that we're mostly, I went up with several people to represent the town at the legislative, the league's legislative workshops or meetings. And I think that the only league objective that we are not necessarily opposed to, but that we would like to not see in our town of what they're saying are their legislative priorities is the one that has to do with sewage requirements to hook up to sewage, because that's just, we're a rural town. Most of our community is on septic, and the only place where hooking up to sewer would even be feasible would be along Southern Boulevard and along North Road, where there actually is a line put in up there. But other than that, everybody else is on septic. So that's I wouldn't say we're opposed to it per se, but we're not aligned with it for our rural community and potentially for other rural ones. Would you agree that that's the only one that we're?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
what we
That's the only one. that
outlined
we're-
in here.
We're really, again, not opposed to, not, oh my God, it would be hard, but to force our residents to all hook up to septic would be financially unfeasible.
A hardship.
For most of our residents, for a majority of our residents.
Other questions, Madam Mayor?
I don't see any. Robert, no questions from you? Amazing. Laura?
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Donna, thank you.
No?
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate the continued opportunity.
Thank you, and congratulations.
And see, anything else that you wanted to do as part of this?
I guess we
item?
wanted to just go over a couple things. One, we're continuing to work and refine what our applications will be for this year. And as Mr. Book said, we have a couple of non-dollar funding type of items, like getting help from FDOT with some traffic lights on Southern, and also trying to extend our designation as a rural community, which, by the way, it does translate to money because we don't have to do matching.
I should have mentioned the
Yeah.
rural designation because your
Yeah.
time is running out on your 2-year cycle on it.
Right, right. The partnership with the Department of Commerce is really the key one for us because, obviously, that's where most of our rural
She can't
concerns
come
get.
home without that rural
Yeah.
designation
Yeah.
or she'll be fired. So it's
Right.
okay.
Right. We just want to get it to 5 years. That's all.
We know where you want to be.
Yeah.
We know
Thank
where
you.
you want to be.
And I also
Ron
wanna
and I
thank-
talked about it this afternoon, so.
I do think that it would be important to thank your whole staff and also
thank you.
to.
Yeah,
let
Gabby's here too.
everyone-
She wasn't
yeah.
here when I recognized Ron and Sean and
Mhm.
Sam, so thank you.
I also want to just be clear that Mr. Pittman's firm does the federal work as well. So hopefully we've made a partnership tonight that will endure. And so we'll figure out which is the best way to go for the various projects that we have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look, earmarks are critically important. What Congress is going to do over the next 90 to 120 days will be significant. I think what we don't know today is there's clearly a breakdown between what the House Speaker wants to do and what the Senate Majority Leader wants to do. The President-elect weighed in on Sunday one way, weighed in yesterday another way. And that's the issue of whether or not you do budget reconciliation and taxes together in one bill, or do you do them in two bills? Senate wants to do them in two bills. Speaker Johnson wants to do them in one bill. I'm not quite sure where Democrats are in both houses on it, but with the votes as tight and as close as they are, Republicans can't lose too many votes, if you will, in the House or the Senate, really, when you get down to it, in making those decisions. I personally believe that we're all better in one bill as opposed to two. But I'm not doing your federal work, so I don't have to worry about that. I'll leave that to Mr.
Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you
you,
all
everyone,
for being here. And for what you've done and for what you will do, including Sammy.
Thank you all. Somebody texted me and asked about whether we're gonna help with, make sure Greenbelt law stays there. And, so with the Senate President we have right now, I think that's gonna be pretty safe. So we'll keep an eye on it.
Okay, thank you so much for your time, all of you. Certainly appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much.
Okay, we're on to item number 4. We have a public hearing. Valerie?
Approval of ordinance number 2024-10 on first reading. An ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Loxahatchee Groves, Florida, providing for an amendment to the multiple land use planned unit development. Approval on a parcel of land consisting of approximately 89.95 acres, more or less, located at the northeast corner of Southern Boulevard and B Road. Legally described in Exhibit A, providing for the appropriate revisions to the MLU PUD conceptual master plan and the conditions of approval, providing for conflict, severability, and an effective date.
We ready?
Madam Mayor, Caitlin Forbes for the record. If you don't mind, I have a short presentation to make to introduce the council to the project. And then the applicant also has 1 or 2 presentations to make as well, to hopefully answer additional questions, and then we'll open it up for comment and questions.
Thank you.
Thanks, Val.
I do need to notify that I met, had ex parte meeting with the Groves Town Center?
I did as well.
We also,
I'm number 4.
Marge?
Marge, are you there?
I said me also.
So, thank you, everyone. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for that. So the application before you tonight is the master plan amendment inclusive of amendments to the previously approved conditions of approval. The general subject site is shown on the map here. Of course, it's Groves
Joe,
Town
close the
Center.
door. Sorry,
Oh, sorry.
it's
okay.
interrupting.
So last month, at the beginning of last month, you heard on first reading a request to amend the Groves at Town Center special policy as it relates to the comprehensive plan. Tonight, of course, is the master plan amendment, and then upon second reading of the comprehensive plan text amendment and the rezoning ordinance, the applicant would bring before you for consideration 2 corresponding site plans, one for the proposed hotel project and one for the public park or open space project. However, tonight, the vote is specifically relating to the master plan amendment and the amendments to the conditions of approval. Just for reference, the existing master plan is shown on the screen here. I'll flip to the next slide. You'll see that generally the graphic is going to look pretty similar. It does reflect previous site plan approvals that were approved since the last time the master plan was updated. You'll see some additional lot splits there, and also updates to Avocado as it extends east to reflect the most recent plat. However, the biggest change that you'll note in the subject of the request is the modification to pods TC and pod G. Pod G is on the top of the screen, pod TC is in the middle. And what effectively would occur under the applicant's proposal is that pod G would be used for the proposed park or open space, and pod TC would be used for the hotel project that would come before you, like I said, with second reading of the 2 ordinances. Previously, pod G was to be utilized for the 128 bed assisted living facility, and pod TC would be used for the public park. So the applicant, as discussed with the comprehensive plan text amendment, is removing the development allowance for the 128 bed ALF and is replacing it with the hotel use. And in conjunction with that is modifying the locations by essentially flipping pods G and pods TC. So the park is pushed a little further north into pod G. It's closer to the adjacent equestrian trail that runs around the perimeter of the town center. And it pulls the hotel forward into the site closer to Southern Boulevard. As we worked through the projects and the various pieces of this project, we had discussions with the applicant that related to B Road and concerns as it relates to B Road circulation. And the existing conditions that are occurring out on B Road, especially as it relates to the intersection of the Publix driveway that intersects B Road to the west, and then Avocado intersecting B Road from the east. And then, of course, the Southern Boulevard intersection itself. And the applicant has taken some steps already to help improve some of those conditions, and has committed to other improvements that will hopefully help continue the circulation conditions out there. So we'll walk through some of those here in terms of short-term and long-term factors and considerations. The Groves at Town Center team is working through unstriping one of the lanes in B Road to provide for additional stacking. The applicant has already installed, and Matt can correct me, I believe last month, the wayfinding signage out throughout Avocado and Tangerine to help distribute traffic to the new roundabout that was installed and opened within the property, and better distribute traffic to B Road and Southern that way. I'll show you a graphic of what that looks like. And also 2 new improvements that I'll show you a graphic of. The applicant has committed to in the future as part of their conditions of approval is the addition of a do not block the box striping, and the installation of what we call the pork chop median within the B Road right of way. Also, it's been noted that the Publix to the south that was closed should be reopening if it hasn't. And the applicant's hopeful that that may also help divert some of the traffic and conflicting maneuvers that are happening at that intersection. Longer term factors and improvements that to keep in mind is that, you know, the town is coordinating and continuing to coordinate with the county and FDOT regarding signal timing, which is always good to keep, you know, consistent with the requests for signal timing. That's something that can quickly throw off circulation and create congestion at places like the B Road and Southern intersection. And the town, through its development application process, is continuing to work with all property owners to assess off-site circulation and right-of-way improvements to better improve and reduce some of the pinch points that have been noted. So the wayfinding plan that the applicant submitted is shown on the screen here. You can see a couple different locations. Generally, these are small traffic signs that are telling you, you know, go to the right to access Southern Boulevard, go you know, to the left to access B Road. And it's basically just diverting traffic to the correct locations and helping people to get out of the site as efficiently as possible. And then in terms of the do not block the box and the pork chop median, you can see the existing intersection on the left and the proposed conditions on the right. Essentially, this would eliminate cross traffic movements going from Publix into the Groves at Town Center site and vice versa. And it would also eliminate left outs from Avocado from the Groves at Town Center site. So these are the biggest conflicting movements, the through traffic or the cross traffic, and then the left out. So by eliminating those movements, we're hoping to reduce some of the congestion and the conflicting movements that may cause
Can I
safety.
interrupt you to ask a
Mhm.
question? I'm so sorry, but regarding that pork chop, one of the concerns that I had when speaking with Groves at Town Center and that I still have is that, you know, I think that the pork chop's a great idea, but unfortunately, I think that those little plastic
The delineators.
big delineators are gonna be mown over in very short order. So, my question is, once they're mown over, because I believe they will be, is that then the town's responsibility to put them back up? And if that is the case, is there a more permanent or structurally sound solution that can't just be run over by a pickup truck with a large cow catcher on the front of it? You know what I'm saying? So I'd like to explore that or know what some other options, leaving the pork chop design, but making the barrier be something a little bit more
Like a medium.
permanent, a
so-
little bit more solid. I mean, I understand that there's a cost consideration here for them, but I'd rather see something that's gonna be, so either put these up and see if they last, and then if they do last for 6 months, I'm wrong, my bad. Or put them up, make a condition that put them up, and if they don't last for 6 months, then look into something that the developer would have to do, something that's a more permanent solution. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Am I
I-
communicating that?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. I think staff had a similar thought process and going forward, I think this is a good first step. To your point, to try and see what we can put in B Road that will help the existing conditions. And then if something like the delineators that's maybe a little bit more cost effective does prove to be effective, then you can always look at a more permanent solution.
How permanent enough,
Yeah, so then you can look at something like just a standard median, raised median. You know, I think there's certainly other design options, but I think this is one that the applicant was comfortable with in terms of you know, funding the installation and the design, and something that we thought would be kind of a good test to see if a pork chop design does work the way that we are hopeful that it does, and then you could move
But
into
there's
something
language in
more.
there that says if this doesn't work, they're willing to share costs on something that will work, correct?
There's a
there is
condition that relates to other B Road improvements,
Okay.
but specific to the pork chop, there is the one condition that talks about design and installation within the 90 days, yes.
Well, we might need to firm that up a little bit. Okay, Laura, I'm sorry, you had a question at this point too.
Well, you brought up the pork chop, and my question is, What happens to the pork chop if there's development to the east of Groves Town Center and through roadway is requested to move traffic in a westerly fashion from anything developed to the east? What happens then? Because that point was brought up in a developers meeting, it's like October. So is that covered in this, or is this going to be a gosh gee whiz, now we have to rethink it?
So all left out movements, you know, assuming traffic is coming from the east, you know, C Road over, moving through Groves at Town Center, traffic attempting to make left outs would be diverted to Tangerine just to the north, and then they could make their full left out. So Tangerine remains full access in and out. So it just eliminates that left out at Avocado because there's such a short stacking distance between Avocado and Southern.
The first driveway, not the
Yeah.
second driveway.
So that's where the pinch point is created at this time.
So this road we're looking at is Avocado.
This is Avocado,
Okay.
and then I think,
It's like the
Yeah, so
directly across the
Tangerine-
street from the Publix.
yeah,
Right.
Tangerine is
Thick-
labeled on the map here.
You have everybody going like.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So if you were coming from the east, you have multiple north-south streets that you could take to get from Avocado up to Tangerine. Within the Groves at Town Center project, they essentially established a series of blocks across the Town Center site.
So the short answer is the future is handled by Tangerine.
Yes,
Okay.
Tangerine remains full access.
Thank you.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I have to ask when it's on my mind. Thank you.
No worries. Okay, so, so in summary, the combination of the don't block the box and the pork chop median is an attempt to address some of the known circulation and congestion issues at this particular intersection. And we did discuss that Tangerine does remain full access, and that's where the left out movements would be redirected to. And that's consistent with the wayfinding signage that was placed out in the Groves at Town Center site. And these are conditions of approval that are contained within the staff report as it relates to timing of the design and installation of these improvements. The overall staff does recommend approval, subject to the conditions noted in the staff report with one minor change. The recommendation of the town's legal counsel as it relates to the third condition of approval, just for the record. The town attorney's office did request that in the last sentence, there's 2 words added. It's not really substantive, but I'll read it into the record. And it'll be reflected in the ordinance upon second reading. So the last sentence for that third condition of approval would state, prior to the issuance of the final certificate of occupancy for the hotel use on the site, the applicant or its successors or assigned shall contact the town in writing to evaluate the proportionate fair share contribution of such changes that is applicable based on, and then the words the projected are inserted.
page?
The conditions of approval start on page 121 of your packet. And it's condition 3, which is on 122.
Okay, and that's where you want to add the verbiage?
Yes, it's just in the second to last line, as part of the last sentence, the words is applicable based on the projected increase, traffic and impact on traffic circulation generated as a result of the conversion to the hotel use.
Okay, but I still didn't really get an answer to my question. Glenn, maybe you're the one to answer my question. Should the pork chops get mowed over? Whose responsibility is it to replace the pork chops? Is it the builder's responsibility, or does that become a town burden? I
think we could add a condition, Caitlin, that would indicate that it's the developer's responsibility for
Yeah.
at least some period of 5 years, 10 years, some period of
Okay.
time.
That's
Yeah, we
my
could add
question.
that within
We'll
the
check
first
if the applicant
condition.
is agreeable to that.
Thank you. Sorry.
No problem. For the record, Brian Seymour, I'm the attorney for the applicant. I can't answer the question because this just came up, but this is first reading. So can we we'll sit down and talk through how this might all work, what the issues may be. Just so we can't commit, having heard it, but we'll sit down and talk staff for second reading.
Just want to put it on the table. Thanks. Okay, do we want to do public comment before their presentation? Do we have any public comment?
Regarding the traffic situation.
It could be anything regarding this. Anybody else have one? Val? You don't
I have not received any, no.
I have people coming up. Okay.
Mr. McClendon?
Todd McClendon, 3041 D Road. I was hoping to hear the presentation first. I'm on the planning and zoning. I met with the applicant last Friday also. They've made a lot of improvements. They've drastically reduced the heights of the building, which is good. They're trying to do something with the traffic, and that's a huge issue. And I'm glad that the mayor brought that up. I do believe there does something need to be put in writing specifying that if those delineators don't work, which I have complete confidence they will not, they're going to get mowed over in a week because it'll be a challenge for some people to run them over, that there's something more permanent put there. So a couple of things that we had discussed was, there's some exterior lighting on the building. It used to be around the entire building. I wasn't objected to the side of the building on the south side that face Southern Boulevard. They had talked about adding some architectural features that made it look more rural, which I was in favor of. I'm still disappointed that the parcel that the town's supposed to have that originally started at 5 acres is down to 4.16. They've included a wetland, which really doesn't do us any good. You always heard, we got some swampland in Florida we can sell you. We're kind of getting some swampland here is what we're getting. But overall, they've come forward and they've made a lot of good improvements. So thank you.
Ms. Siciliano?
Joe Siciliano, 1530 B Road. Happy New Year. Thank you guys for your service. Regarding the traffic at that intersection, I think all of it is completely inadequate. And before, it is not just inconvenient, it's dangerous to drive in and out of B Road. And I think before anything gets put in paper, a closer study of somehow has to take place. Your pork chop, I can't even believe I'm saying that word regarding traffic, but it's great, except for there's a median in the way with bushes that completely block your view with or without a pork chop. If everybody's going to be turning left from there, from Publix, why aren't they moving down to that more northern exit? That should be allowed to be a left-hand turn, or actually left turn only, and coming out of Publix to the, should be where it is now, should be right-hand turn only. I don't know, there just has to be something else done. It took me 15 minutes and 2 lights to get here tonight because of people cheating and blocking. And I hear the sirens every day for accidents at that intersection. So I just hope there's something more you could do before you say a pork chop's going to do the trick. Thank you.
Your comment? Okay. We starting that.
So before Matt starts, just a point on the delineators and the pork chop. In our discussions, because I was intimately involved in the discussions in this, and many ideas were thrown around. The concern the developer has, which I can kind of understand, is they don't want to spend a bunch of money putting in curbs and find out it doesn't work, have to rip it out, spend more money on curbs, find out that doesn't work. So the idea is they're putting the delineators in, seeing if the conditions of the traffic changes prior to making other modifications. Because some of the original idea was the pork chop. Another idea was what Joe said, was just cutting that entire intersection off to where you can basically come across Southern Boulevard, make a left on from B into Publix. And if you wanted to leave Publix to go continue north, you had to go out the back entrance. In order to do that, modifications need to be made to the north exit, because when that property was developed, there was apparently a concern of trucks turning left. So they purposely designed that exit to where you can only turn right. So you can't leave that, technically, the way that intersection is set up, the north exit out of Publix, you can't turn left because it's a do not enter. Well, you could physically do it, but you're not supposed to because there's no apron. Right. There's double yellow lines, there's aprons there. Technically, you're not even supposed to turn in there because if you look at there's a do not enter sign. So it's supposed to be an exit only, it's supposed to be a right turn only. So modifications would have to be made. And before we sunk a bunch of money into doing that, we figured spend a couple $1,000s, put some delineators in. Honestly, you're right. They're probably gonna get mowed over in a month or a week or whatever, but at least we'll be able to study the drivers' patterns to see if they actually, I mean, they may actually obey. I mean, there's delineators on 95 that have been there on the middle, everybody's doing 80 miles an hour and somehow they seem to make it. So, they very well, the people might say, okay, let me go this way. And then they figure out, wait, if I go this way around, it's a lot faster. It's easier. I don't have to deal with B Road. I can still get across the street and back into Wellington or continue west. So, the initial intent was to put the delineators in, observe traffic conditions and see if the patterns get better. If they do, then examine, recutting the islands, redoing the curbing and all the other stuff to make it more of a permanent situation.
Yeah, just like that. So also, to my knowledge regarding this issue with B Road is this applicant is the only one willing to assist the town in the traffic control. The owner of the Publix, to my knowledge, is not willing to assist. So, at least they're willing to help the town and they still have a project, being completed. So it is to their benefit as well. But the Publix owner is, to my knowledge, is not willing to assist at all.
Good evening, good evening, Madam Mayor and Vice Mayor and council members. For the record, Matthew Barnes, Senior Project Manager at WGI, here on behalf of both the Groves Town Center master developer and the hotel developer, although the hotel developer is also here as well. And thank you to Caitlin and Richard. They've explained things very well, setting me up nicely here. Just want to reiterate too, for everyone, including yourself, I think you all know this is sort of the culmination, as much as of a first of two readings can be a culmination of a long process, including like when this PUD was first approved over 10 years ago, it included the ALF component, and almost immediately, the town had second thoughts about that. And there's been discussions about maybe replacing that ALF with a hotel use because the hotel market is non-existent out here, for lack of a better word. So we've been working with the town on finding a hotel developer and putting this PUD amendment forth coming in. Here we are finally towards the end of the process. We did go through, we went to the planning board and showed them things, and then we went back to the drawing board after that. So I wanted to go over some things that have changed since the planning board reviewed the project, which is, the hotel. I think you heard, and we've met with you all individually. It's changed from 4 stories to 3 stories, right? Which is a big change. It's no longer needing a waiver for the height. We've reduced the number of waivers for the hotel from 6 to 2. And those 2 waivers are very, I'll say, commonly issued waivers. One is for security lighting from midnight to dawn. And the second one is to have a mix of what the town standard parking spaces are, which is larger than everyone else's standard, and have the regular standard spaces. So those are almost every pod in Groves Town Center has received those 2 waivers. We have also, as discussed, and I'll have some similar and different graphics as well to show about the pork chop. We're committed to doing that on our own dime. Also doing the don't block the box markings on B Road. As also mentioned by Caitlin, we've already installed, and I have some pictures to show you. If you've been on site, you've seen them, the wayfinding signs, and they're working. we've been on site and observed people, and those are actually successfully diverting a lot of the traffic to Tangerine, which is where the traffic's supposed to go anyway. What hasn't changed since the last time is important too. There's still 25% of this PUD, 23 acres of it is set aside as a conservation easement and buffer on the north, west and east sides, that's where the, trees are being preserved, and there's an equestrian trail that runs through the entirety of that buffer. That's not changing. Access to the equestrian trail, those points are not changing. In fact, we're adding an access point into Pod G, which would be the new town commons parcel. The wetland, which in the old master plan would be an amenity for the ALF, really, and kind of up by itself, is now it would be incorporated into the town commons use of Pod G, which has been the case from the time we started this application process about a year ago. And then we're not changing the limit of development, the limit on the amount of development. It's still 103,000 square feet of commercial and 44,000 square feet of office. And we're not changing the location of roadways and access points. This is this is the previous, master plan, and this is the morphing of it into what we're proposing, essentially, where we're similar to the slide Caitlin had, where we're swapping, right, both the use of ALF for hotel, but also the location of the town commons pod from south of Tangerine to north of Tangerine, essentially. And I think we all agree that makes sense because you don't want a hotel on Pod G. It's that much closer to Collecting Canal and the residential properties up there. It makes perfect sense on Pod TC in the center of the development. And I should say there's a chance too, the town has always desired to have a nice sit-down restaurant in this development. And we are talking to people about that, and they all want to be next to the hotel, not unsurprisingly. So there's a chance to bring that to fruition as well with this PUD amendment. The pork chop. So right now, the cross-traffic movement is a big problem, as well as left outs from Avocado. So when we put the pork chop in, that'll stop those three specific movements, while still allowing, if you're in Publix and you want to go north into town on B Road, you'll still be able to do that. You'll still be able to, as you're going north on B Road, turn left into it. And you'll still be able to make a right out from Avocado. And this is sort of a rendering of what that would look like as you're driving north on B Road. You'll be sort of channelized as you're turning left, if you will. I just want to point out too that Richard's spot on that, this is something we can do on our own dime and put it in quickly and see what happens. I would caution, I don't know this, but we'd have to look at it. If anything that's curbed would go in there, it might have to be a mountable curb for fire and purposes and things like that. So by definition, if it's mountable, then what's going to stop the people that would run over the delineators from mounting a mountable curb to cheat and go left or right or where they're not supposed to go? So just wanted to put that out there. Yeah, and if you put up Jersey barriers or something like that, now you have a bigger visual impediment to making these turns anyway. And so just wanted to put that out there. Then the do not block the box, the same graphic Caitlin had, a little larger. It's only going to be for the southbound lanes because it doesn't really apply to northbound. You're not going to stop anywhere. So this would just prevent people that are heading south on B Road, don't go into that box if you can't clear it, because sometimes traffic will back up from southern to here. Although, as mentioned, the second southbound left turn lane, which you can see in the yellow striping on this image, is being unstriped starting next week. It's been a little bit of a delay, not on our end. We just had to get the appropriate approvals and the MOT, maintenance of traffic plan, in place. But that's going to get started soon. So there'll be two southbound left turn lanes very soon. Yeah.
The don't block the box, is that an actual thing that's going in?
It's painted.
Painted.
Where would I see one of those? Because I've never really noticed that before. So
Now you'll start seeing
I'm
them
just
everywhere.
wondering, is that something
Yeah, it'll be painted and the words will be stretched out more vertically, I think, so they're.
There's one over, if you drive, on, what's that, Greenbrier? You take Greenbrier around to Paddock, just past Paddock where Wellington's Landing Middle School is, because the parents park on that road and park in front of the fire station. So they painted one across the entire intersection there.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's other ways you can mark it with like X's and multiple X's, which we talked about would be probably confusing here. Because you do have, it's not a signalized intersection, so it's not fully stopped at all times, but the X's would be confusing for people that are actually making the legal movements. So I think the words with the white box around it would probably the most appropriate solution. Yeah. 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 And then the wayfinding signs, yeah, these have already been installed. I've got some pictures here. They're nice looking signs. They're not like DOT signs. They're a nice kind of rural flair to them. They're the darker green with the beige writing on it at key locations. Here, when you come out of Culver's and the car wash, it's saying, hey, if you really want to go to Southern Boulevard, turn right here. So you go to the roundabout and then go down. If you don't do that and you go left, that's fine. You come down westbound on Avocado, you'll see this sign that says to Southern Boulevard and B Road, turn right. As you make that right, you'll see another sign very shortly as you hit Tangerine that says, if you want to go to Southern Boulevard and B Road, turn left, and you'll get to Tangerine. And then as at Wawa, that little driveway that Wawa has onto Avocado, fairly close to B Road, we put a right turn only sign up there. So like I said, that's already working in terms of directing people to the appropriate place. I won't get into this too much, but it just, because you're not reviewing and approving the site plans tonight. That'll be concurrent with your second reading of the PUD amendment. But again, it's a grass parking lot. Basically, we're going to add a culverted crossing from the stormwater management area to the existing horse trail. So you could drive here with your horses in a trailer and get on the trail from here if you can't access it from B Road or C Road. We would put a fence, but if the town doesn't want a fence, we could leave the fence out. If it's just going to get banged into, you think, by people with trailers, we're fine to leave the whole thing just open and not have a fence. We would, again, it would be open grass. We would do stabilized sod and where the trucks would be riding over and over again, so there wouldn't be ruts created. And then the maintenance, to the point earlier, doesn't cost the town anything. The PUD master developer and their successors and assigns in the POA would have to maintain this parcel. And then one thing that changed in the middle of this process is we're going to add some benches next to the wetland that would be able to view into the wetland. So it's, if not, there's a conservation easement across it, so we can't do things on it like boardwalks and walkways, but we can at least visually incorporate it. That's the view of it that's taken in July, what it looks like. And there's another view here from a slightly that's further to the south, but looking back into the wetland. These are approximately where the benches would be placed. That's all I had. Like I said, the hotel developers here, I mean, we can talk about the specifics of the hotel site plan, but again, it's really not what you're looking at in first reading with the PUD ordinance, so we can save all that till the second reading as well. But happy to answer any questions you might have about the hotel and what's changed and what hasn't changed.
Did you want to add to your public comment, or are you? Laura, no? Robert, no? Okay,
I got a comment overall, not related to the hotel. I don't
all
know.
right, looks like Phyllis has a question.
I'm gonna make a motion.
Oh, okay, then Robert has a comment if you'd like to make.
Yeah. We had, Todd said 5 acres. I don't know if it was 5 initially or what, but now it's 4.6, what we have right now for Town Commons Pod. It's got a beautiful stand of oak trees, a nice oak hammock, many specimen trees, which is a tree that this town is very proud of. And if anybody removes one, it has to come in front of council, no matter who it is, to remove a specimen tree. Those are trees that have been growing 50, 60, 80, 100 years. So seeing that that TC pod is 4.6 acres and this new pod G is 4.1 acres plus a wetland area, which is there no matter what. So I don't think it's fair that we give 4.6 and we get 4.1. I would like to see that half acre be preserved, those oak hammocks on the TC pod. So we would give them a TC pod minus the oak hammock, and then we would get pod G. So this is an area that is not part of the tree mitigation program. There's been no discussion on it because it was the town's pod.
We discussed it
So
last meeting.
I'm talking,
I know.
Okay, but let
I'm
her
talking.
finish your comment. Thank you.
So the tree mitigation would have to come before council when they went to develop the pod. Pod G has very little trees on it. I don't know if it has any specimen trees. But I don't think it's fair for the residents to give up 4.6 acres and get 4.1. Give up a beautiful oak hammock that's been there for a very, very long time. I mean, we see developers come in and just level these properties because that's what they do. They want to start fresh and not have to worry about roots or anything from existing trees. And I don't think we should approve this. I don't think it's a fair exchange for the people of this town for what they're giving up for 5G. So I would like us to consider keeping that half acre of oak trees as conservation, or however you word it. And then making the exchange, allow them to develop the rest of the TC pod.
Thank you. Phyllis?
Nope, my light's off. Let Laura talk.
Okay, Laura?
I don't know who's working the display, but whomever is, can you go back somewhere and show the two pods? And then Robert, can you kind of point out where these trees are? Is it a quarter acre, half acre, full acre of trees?
Show the pink, one where you show each pod in pink.
Yeah.
With the slide.
I can't control what's actually on the screen, but I can, yeah. I think, yeah, I can, yeah, whoops. Too much animation on this. Here.
Yeah, right there. So you see the area up in the top right, that's a wetland area. That shouldn't even be pink because that's conservation area. We aren't getting that. So essentially, it's a rectangle on top, 4.1 acres. And then the rectangle at the bottom, the oak trees are in the top left. They are right there. At basically that corner is a hammock. So there's still,
Hammock
It's not
4, hammock 6, hammock 10.
how many trees? I didn't count them, but there's probably a half dozen specimen trees in there, which are large trees, but I don't know, but it is definitely an oak hammock, you know, very old oak hammock, and it's within a corner. It's not like it's right in the middle of the pod and it interferes with any future development of the rest of the pod. And, but the 4.6 acres, you know, given up and getting 4.1, this pink slide is very deceiving because the conservation area should not be pink because that is what it is. It's not developable. It's already in conservation.
Yeah, I don't know.
Now the little dog leg that goes off the top right,
Talking about Four Oaks.
that is,
Here,
yeah.
you're talking about here, right?
Well, to the right is that conservation area, shouldn't even be pink, because the town's not getting that, because it is what it is. The oaks are in the bottom TC pod, which we have right now. The town has the TC pod.
No,
Yeah.
TC
Well-
pod, the lower one.
Yeah, the bottom one, bottom left. It's actually the bottom one, the top left corner. So. No, top, right, yeah, right there. Right there is a beautiful oak stand. Please go by and look at it. This is only first reading. But, you know, I don't think we should sacrifice that. Because it will be a nice rural visual when you come into town center. To see, you know, these and it'll be an additional buffer to the residents to the north. With that roundabout in that area to Southern Boulevard, so I just don't think. You know, acreage wise, I don't think it's fair to the town. And I don't think we should approve. You know, getting 4.1 acres and giving 4.6 and letting a level beautiful oak hammock that today we control. We
Okay, so
completely
hold on a
control
second.
that.
Is it your intention to level that oak hammock? Can somebody address that issue?
With the site plan for the hotel, that oak hammock would have to be removed. Yes, we can't build around it and build the plan that we have. Correct. And if I can also respond to Councilman Shore's some of the items, if you allow me. Yeah, I mean, you know, this is not a decision you're making in a vacuum, right? This is a package deal, I'll say, right? This is where it's not just moving the town commons from pod TC to pod G. It's also removing the ALF use and introducing the hotel use, which is something that, you know, the town has directed us essentially to do, right? So you can't make this particular decision about these trees in a vacuum like that. The hotel the pod TC is not a rectangle. So you can't just say it's a half acre. We don't know if it's a half acre, honestly. But the hotel doesn't work on the east side of the pod TC either. It gets narrower over there. There's the roundabout starts to intrude into it. It bulges into it, right? Which you can see. There's a lift station that also intrudes into that. So the hotel doesn't work if you put it over on the east side. Also, you know, the wetland is part of pod G. It's platted as on the plat as that. It is, so it's 5.43 acres, pod G, the town commons. I understand that 1.25 acres of that is in the wetland and you can't use it by walking across it and things like that, but it's visually, it'll be a part of the town commons use, so to speak. The town isn't getting it. Again, it's can be owned and maintained by the PUD master developer, and other parties can also use it. It's not exclusively for the town's use. Potentially private parties could book it or whatever, just for little events, a car show, something like that, you know, things like that. So wanted to point those things out in sort of response to that. It's not made in a vacuum. It's a package deal.
I met with you, said to the understanding from both you and the hotel developer that those trees were not being eliminated, they were being moved. And an inaccurate statement?
No, there are trees on the entirety of the hotel site, that some of which are being preserved and some of which are being moved. The ones in this stand of oak trees, which are laurel oaks, not live oaks, by the way, there's approximately 10 trees in there. Because it's a grove of oak trees, by definition, they're kind of entangled with each other, right? They cannot be safely moved. Laurel. Yeah, actually, I do have, I've got a better, if you bear with me while I back through all the animations. Not live oaks. Yeah, they are laurel oaks. There's, and I wanted to also remind, I mean, this picture illustrates that shaded green area is, like I mentioned, it's 25% of our PUD. That is where trees are being preserved. All the other parcels are development parcels by definition. Like that's what they're for. They're for development. there was a decision made at the beginning of this PUD to conserve and put the horse trail in the conservation buffer, which is 300 feet wide in most places and narrows to 100 feet on the other sides. But this is the pod G view, and then this is advanced. So this is like looking down at kind of an oblique view of the TC pod, Town Commons pod. It's only called that because it's platted like that. So that stand is in the northwest corner there, the top left here. And like you said, we can't. There's maybe 2 or 3 trees we could find in there that we could then save and move. We could actually move them to pod G. But because they're so entangled and they're past their mature life, right? You can't move trees that are that big and entangled. Their roots are entangled and things like that. Yeah.
Phyllis, do you have a question?
So this was going to be 4 stories and have a bigger footprint, but to accommodate everybody concerned about the height in the trees, it's gone to a wider footprint and a shorter building. Okay, which means that they're going to have to take out more green space, but they are giving us green space. And I'm sorry, a wetland is not a waste. A wetland is someplace for wild animals. And I would enjoy sitting there. And I'm sure some other people that live close by would enjoy using that. Also, they're not clear cutting in the name of ag, and they're not clear cutting to put a fence up around their 10 acres. I'm pretty sure that we have some people in this room that are putting up fence and taking out trees, but they're doing it in the name of ag. So they don't have to replace anything. This is in replace of an ALF that was brought to us by a previous council that was not thinking of the future of this town. They were thinking of themselves, and they would have never lived in this ALF. All right, this is about doing something good for the town, just like the TPA, just like the roundabouts. Okay, this is something that the town needs. So yes, we have to sacrifice 4 oaks. They're not live oaks. They're not 100-year oaks. They are 4 oaks. And we have a huge tree mitigation, Francine, with a ton of trees in it that nobody's even wanted yet, that we could still use. So I say, let's stop looking at half-done site plans. Let's follow what these other municipalities are doing around us and stop looking at construction sites and get it done. I want to make a motion.
Well, Robert has something else he'd like to add versus his lights on, so let me let him do that.
Yeah, we're a rural town and we're up here to protect this town and do what's best for the residents. We aren't up here to cater to the developer. The developer, we supported the hotel, we said at the last meeting, and I still support the hotel. The developer can still make it work. There's no problem them making, we're not gonna get everything they want, and they shouldn't get everything they want. What you're doing is giving them carte blanche to level this entire pod, which right now is the town commons pod, that none of these trees would be tore out because the town would want the trees in there. And give us an area that is 15% less, 4.6 to 4.1, or maybe it's even less now if that wetland's 1.25. Now we're at 3.4 now, if the wetland's that big, but
Without it's 4.
anyhow, that's the fact. My point is, you sit up here upset because these developers come in, they level these things and take every tree down. And I've heard many people on this dais say, why do they have to do that? And it's just the way they do it. They start with a clean slate. And in this case, they don't have to do it. They can work around these trees. We can preserve them. It would be a nice park setting, a different area for people, a nice additional buffer to Southern Boulevard. and the hotel will still work. There's still 4 acres there to build the hotel. What they want to do is they want to do everything. They want to do a hotel and a restaurant. They want to do 2 pods for 1. So they want to make a lot more money. And what it is we're not up here to cater to the developers. And this is a situation where they want, and it's a situation where as a town and as representatives of the town and the rural lifestyle and all the animals and trees and people in it, we've got to do what we think is best for the town. And sometimes we got to say no, but here's an alternative. And I think this is an option to preserve this ½ acre. And like you said, it's a oak hammock where over the years they have grown together, and it's a beautiful hammock. Once you get the non-native exotic vegetation out of there, it will be an amazing place to stroll through for everybody, the shoppers, the employees, the hotel guests. I mean, they will all benefit from this. So my motion would be to not approve this as written, but have them modify or approve it with the contingency that the ½ acre be set aside of pod TC to remain preserved. So that's what I would like to see in a motion.
Okay, so. Have you gone out there and surveyed it and measured that this is a ½ acre of oak hammock that's there? I mean, have you gone out, are you just throwing around numbers or do you have?
Yeah, that's looking at the.
Okay, so you're
graphic,
just, so here's,
yeah.
let me make an alternate suggestion. So my alternate suggestion is that since this is not site plan approval, this is just location approval. I myself am hugely in favor of moving this project further away from our residents along Collecting Canal and moving it further forward towards Southern Boulevard. I think that is the first great service we can do to our citizens, is to take this hotel and its security, lighting and noise and all of the things that it's bring further towards Southern. In my understanding, this first reading tonight is just about moving the location, but that my suggestion is that we approve this tonight as meaning approve the moving of the location, but strongly recommend to you that in your site plan, you work to try to mitigate some of the damage to the natural environment that exists there, and that come back with real numbers and real possibilities. I also understand that a lot of the trees in this oak hammock and in that area in general were significantly damaged by the tornado that came through town. So what I'm going to suggest is that I'm sure you have a landscape guy. I'm assuming you're him because you're sitting right there. Is that that when we go to site approval, that the landscape guy come back to us with some real numbers, not just Mr. Shore's thrown around imaginary ½ acre numbers, but since it's my understanding that this reading is simply to approve this site change forward, to go ahead and let's try to get a motion and approve this site plan moving forward, but to put you guys on notice that we're going to want you to work with us on preserving as much of this natural environment as possible. And we want some real numbers, not just thrown away things. Is there a way to preserve some or all of that oak hammock that isn't damaged? Is a lot of it damaged? I mean, I want some real information, I guess, is what I'm saying, not just somebody
Agreed.
strolled through the woods and made an observation. So that's what I'm going to suggest. So can I have
May I?
Yes,
I'd
please.
like to make a motion to approve ordinance 2024. Is Marge with us still, by the way?
Marge is still with you. I was on
Thank
hold
you,
for a
Marge.
long time before, and I didn't get a chance to make my comments on B Road. I was, my hand was up, but it wasn't recognized.
I'm so
So
sorry. I can't see your hand while we've
There it
got
is.
other things there. I see it now, but when we had the graphics, your hand wasn't showing. So is there something you need to say before Phyllis makes the motion?
no, I would like to second the motion.
Wait, I gotta finish it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm gonna make a motion to approve ordinance 2024 10 on first reading, subject to conditions of approval noted in the staff report and ordinance.
Second,
There you go, Marge.
second,
Margie, second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay, passes 3-2. Okay, we're on to the consent agenda, which is item numbers 5 through 10. 5 through 10 are all consent. 5 has been pulled by staff. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to
Chair.
approve the consent agenda.
I'm sorry, Mr. Shore has something to say.
Yeah, there's an item on here that I think the title may be deceiving in some of the background. I don't want to discourage, council members now or in the future from establishing relationships with elected officials. So I'd like to pull out 9 just to discuss and understand why it's there. Because it's a resolution and it stays forever until it's changed. You know, it's not just a
Nothing's forever.
consensus item. Well, I said until it's changed, so I'd like to pull that just for transparency, understanding.
Okay.
I'm not saying
okay.
it's bad, just
Yeah, I don't understand the full reach of 9 either.
No,
Okay,
I
So,
was gonna
yeah.
approve the consent agenda as written.
we could pull item 9 for discussion because we certainly don't want to give the impression that we have a strong mayor as we have in the past. So let's pull item 9 for discussion. Okay, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the absence of 5 and by pulling 9 for discussion?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda minus item 5, which was pulled by staff, and 9 for discussion.
Do I have a second?
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
aye,
Second. Okay, passes 5-0. Phyllis seconded it before Marge. Okay, item number 9 for discussion.
and I just wanted
But before you start, if you wouldn't mind letting me say what the item is here for?
sure, yeah.
Yeah, the reason that this item is here with the resolution is because each year before we do our Tallahassee trip, we identify the mayor and the vice mayor as the main spokesman. We have done that every single year. We have not done it with a resolution. This is the first year we're doing it with a resolution. And while we didn't put in here that we were going to go ahead and make this part of the annuals, this would be something that we would intend to do annual. It's just formalizing what we have previously done. And so anyway, there you go. Sorry, didn't want to take away from your discussion.
All right, yeah, the concern is some of the wording in the description, but then when you get to section 2, you know, where it talks about, you know, written and oral communication with county commissioners, members of the legislature, the House, the senators, respective staff, as well as state and federal executive agencies. And I just want to understand and help make it clear, you know, why we're doing this because of the Tallahassee. It says concerning any potential or pending legislative or budgetary matters. It doesn't say anything about Tallahassee. So my point is, I don't want somebody to read this and think, oh, I'm not supposed to meet with my congressman or representative or county commissioner. I'm not supposed to speak at county meetings or other city meetings. So
I think it
just
says designated as the primary spokesperson, just like you were when you went to Tallahassee last year and the year before and the year before
my point
on
is-
behalf of the town.
Yeah, this
I believe
doesn't,
it says specifically primary spokesperson. Nowhere here does it say or indicate in any way that you as a council member are obviated from speaking to any of those people.
well, it says nothing about Tallahassee. That's why I just want to make sure people understand that it's just items like tonight where we went over the lobbyists, the legislative items, you know, if we had
But
an
it's not
issue-
just restricted to Tallahassee, nor did you restrict yourself for speaking on behalf of the town when you were mayor. You did not restrict yourself to Tallahassee on speaking on behalf of the town.
No.
No,
And it shouldn't
right.
be, but anybody can speak at any meeting.
That's
Yeah, I
that is
never
correct.
brought a resolution that told nobody else to go speak at these meetings.
This resolution doesn't say
And
that,
and that's what I want to make sure that it's just clear
but
for
if,
future council members to establish those relationships, meet with county commissioners, meet with reps and senators. It's only specific items,
Okay,
which is what it says, your specific legislative budgetary matters, which is basically Tallahassee.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The wording in here is muddy. You know, and again, I read through it twice and I'm like, so I go to a league luncheon and somebody says, hey, Councilmember Danowski, how is your town handling new FEMA map designations? I mean, am I supposed to say, gosh, gee whiz, I'm not allowed to talk about it. You got to ask the mayor. You know, and again, that's taking it, you know, 3 steps beyond, but I want to make sure that as a council member, I am allowed to speak to my constituents. I run into a commissioner at Publix, hey, Commissioner blah, blah, you know, how are you? So on and so forth. How's traffic? How's school? How's, you know, whatever. It, you know,
I'm
it's,
sorry, I see no wording in here that is nefarious or that leads any, should lead any council member to believe that they shouldn't speak on behalf of the town. I think we're authorized to do that as council members, but.
I was going to say, that's our job.
That's your job. That's why you were elected. So I see nothing in here that obviates you speaking on behalf of the town, only something here that designates the mayor for these specific things, whoever the mayor may be.
And that makes
But-
sense.
and it makes perfect
And I
sense,
agree
as
with
it
it.
has for the last 3 years when Mr. Shore represented us this way. But Glenn, do you see anything nefarious or limiting on other council members in the legal language of this? Because Mr.
Francine,
Shore and Ms. Danowski. seem
Francine
to
and I are
see
both
that.
looking at the charter because the charter already says that the mayor is the head of town government for ceremonial matters, signature of things, contracts, etc. Mayor represent the town when dealing with other entities. So this is a little bit of maybe put meats on the bone of saying you represent the town and dealing with other legislative other entities, it said other entities. So this is being a little more specific.
Is there a reason why, Francine, you felt it was necessary to do a resolution this year when we have never done a resolution in the past when Mr. Shore was representing us in all these matters?
We're getting more formal on everything, so, you know, again, I like resolutions. Mr. Kurtz tells you you don't need them. I just thought that it would be something that would be better to have.
So
Um,
you just thought it was the right thing to do?
I
Glenn,
did.
Do you think that in any way this obviates any, or should obviate any other council member from representing our town as for their constituents, both in and
No,
outside the
and
town?
if you want to make that clear, you can make that as part of the motion, that this doesn't restrict other council members from
Okay.
exercising their.
Are you okay with that, Robert? As long as they add the sentence that's
Yeah.
to this?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
fine with
Laura, you
that.
okay with that as long as they add that sentence?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just to pick nits. I'm looking at the third whereas on page 240, which if you read the type up in black, it basically says the mayor and or the vice mayor is designated for communications. But then this other whereas, it says designates the mayor as the town official to represent the town when dealing with other entities. So, you know, again, like I said, the language is muddy. I never said nefarious. I never said non-transparent. I said muddy.
The third
So-
whereas clause comes from the section 2 of the charter.
It's in our charter.
I know. And again, coupled with the black type up at the top, the bold, it's not a good relationship or syntax or whatever. Muddy. Anyway,
So are you
That's it.
suggesting a charter change?
don't be a smarty about it.
No,
No,
I'm
I'm not.
asking
I'm just
very
saying the way these two paragraphs are conflated, it doesn't
I'm
work.
not being
But anyway.
smarty about it. I'm saying, since this wording is in our charter, are you suggesting a charter change? It's
Hell
a simple
no.
Question.
Hell
No,
no.
you're not suggesting a charter change.
I have a question for our legal.
Okay, go ahead.
So talking about muddy and things like that, does this restrain council members from going rogue on their own and trying to sabotage things that will be coming up before us to vote on in the future? Because we've had that in the past. So basically, to me, this says that the mayor is basically mostly going to speak on things that she has clarity from the dais that the majority of her council members would like to talk about regarding other municipalities and that. But in the past, unfortunately, when we've had votes coming up, we have had council members currently sitting on this dais
Okay. let's not
that
say-
have gone to literally sabotage things that we will vote on. Does this prevent them from doing that? Or make it harder for them to go before another board, another municipality, and speak for the town as if the town has sent them, when the town has not?
I don't know if this does any more or less than what the charter does. It just has some more words to it, but at the end of the day, the charter says the mayor is the head, ceremonial head, interacting with others. There's no restriction on here that says no other council member can speak. So it doesn't, it's not tying anybody's hands. It's making it clear though that she, or whoever she designates, let's say Tallahassee, she can't make Tallahassee and she designates you or Laura or, Marge, anybody else to be the spokesperson, she can do that under that. But the charter talks about the mayor and the vice mayor. This only expands it to say who you designate to me. The rest of this, there's a lot of words that don't add a whole lot.
Well, let's make a motion.
Is
Let's-
Marge, wanting to
Marge,
speak on this?
Is your hand up? No. Okay, so let's make a motion and add the sentence, please. Who'd like to make the motion?
I'm gonna make the motion
Okay, and
to,
add the sentence that
I don't
says-
know what that sentence is,
Okay,
to
we'll let-
adopt
we'll let Glenn know.
Resolution 2025-05 to formalize the designation of mayor or mayor's alternative as the town spokesman on legislative and budgetary matters. With
Second.
what versions?
Wait a minute, let's let Glenn add a sentence that definitively does not exclude other council members from
And like you just said, and does not exclude other council members from communications.
acting on behalf of the town.
No.
No.
No, I don't agree with that because
Yes, but that's
council
our job.
members have spoken in behalf of the town when the rest of the council did not agree, and they were speaking on their own behalf. So no, I am not in favor on adding that.
Okay, however, it is our job as council members to represent the desires of the consensus of the council on behalf of the town at all
Correct.
opportunities to do that. So you can't tie the hands of council members to do what they're elected to do by their constituents. That's what you're-
Elected to do, but not go.
But unfortunately, you have to elect people with the integrity to speak on what the consensus.
All right,
has been
whatever you want,
established. We
Anita.
We can't do anything about that.
Whatever.
But other than, that's something that's got to be solved at the polls, but you can't tie the hands of council members to
They
do
shouldn't
what they were
speak
elected to do. which is to act
against
on. Well, of course they shouldn't, but.
things that we're voting forward.
Of course they shouldn't.
Okay.
However.
Well, that's my
You
point.
can't, that's not resolutionable. Is that a word, Glenn?
I just think you adding Mr. Shore's sentence.
That's votable.
is
No, I'm not adding Mr. Shore's sentence.
giving-
I've tried to provide some solace to council members who feel like their voice is being usurped. So,
because
and it doesn't hurt to add
they
it because it's
overstepped.
what they were elected to do anyhow. It doesn't hurt to.
I don't
add it.
care, whatever. I made a motion.
Okay.
What are the consequences, if a council person does go rogue like, Phyllis is concerned about?
None.
Yeah,
You
it's
can report-
ethics.
You can report him to ethics. That's
Oh,
the consequence.
okay. All right, I second the motion.
Okay, I'm sorry, Jeff would like to weigh in on something.
No, I was just gonna say that the real purpose of this resolution is for other folks to recognize who they're dealing with. And so if you came into a situation in which the mayor was representing the town and then another councilman was there and they said something different to that body, it is the mayor who is representing the town. And that's all that this really does. It doesn't limit anybody, any of you, from going and speaking your minds to other elected representatives, other bodies, going to, testify before the legislature, during one of their committee meetings, any of that kind of thing. But if there was a discrepancy and somebody goes, who's speaking for the town? This person is not saying the same thing the mayor is. What this resolution says is, all you folks out there, listen to the mayor.
That's clear.
Thank you.
That's the purpose of.
Okay,
of
we have a
this.
motion and a second.
Thank you, Jeff.
Can you put that in one sentence?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed, you didn't add the sentence.
Right, opposed, you didn't add the
that-
sentence.
Well, it passed.
That- Right, that was the question that Valerie and I have. Is the sentence added or not?
No.
Or
Yes.
just say yes?
No.
Then no. So-
Motion didn't happen.
Okay,
It did
so
pass.
Vice Mayor.
Yes. What,
Okay, I just want to make sure that you're
yeah.
clear because you seconded the motion, so you're seconding the motion without including that sentence. It's just to approve the resolution as presented.
correct.
Okay, passes 3-2. Okay, all right. Not gonna spend any more time on that. Discussion of helicopter landings in town.
We've had a couple of residents, some actually have landed their helicopter on their property. And we were posed the question of whether it is allowed by our code. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Curtis.
Don't say,
I will try to be very brief here. We have had inquiries. There are circumstances in which people may want to land their helicopters in town. If it is an emergency landing,
Like
the,
Tomahawk, you're talking.
well, Tomahawk or an emergency for that particular flight, they're authorized.
Oh, like the flight has to come.
The flight has to
Okay,
come
okay.
down.
That's fine.
There's something going on. They do not have to have a designated site to go to. In a non-emergency situation, not under the FAA requirements, but under the state of Florida requirements, you are supposed to only land at a site that has been approved by the state. And that applies whether you are landing there once or landing there 100 times a day. So what we have here is the question of what constitutes a use. That being how many times someone can land before it becomes an actual use. Looking at the state of Florida guidance, where you are supposed to have site approval for a single landing, we would suggest that you should adopt an understanding that one landing means you have to have approval. So in order to get the site approval from the state of Florida, you have to get zoning approved. The state, through its regulations, will have zoning approval requirement from the local municipality. Currently, the way our zoning code works is if something is not permitted, it's prohibited. So the question would be, do you want to keep the prohibition and not allow any helicopter landings in town? That would be the official position that we would take. Or do you want to allow helicopter landings? In Wellington, our neighbor to the south, they have regulations about it. They allow up to 18 landings a year on an EOZD property. Most of the properties in town are the equivalent of the EOZD. They're larger acre properties. The county would allow, they would allow helicopter landings on similarly sized properties. So the question that we have for you and the discussion that we were presenting to you is, do you want to allow helicopter landings? If not, we can keep things as they are, or we can have a very affirmative statement that they're not allowed. And if you did want to allow them, we would have to amend the zoning code to allow it.
Phyllis, you have something to say?
And let's bring fireworks too. Okay? So it's ridiculous that this is even on the agenda. We have a helicopter pad for Trauma Hawk if there's trauma. I've been airlifted. There is a cemetery down the road. There's plenty of places for Trauma Hawk to land. Okay? So I have a customer that's a helicopter. She lives on Collecting over by B Road. How's that going to work? Okay? No. Zero. No. Zero. No. Zero. Trauma Hawk has permission, and I would appreciate it if you guys would get with the Dolphins and make sure that that is certified happening for the people on the north side that we initiated that for. No, that is my one councilman member vote no.
Yeah, it's, I think the easiest and less burden on staff and residents' tax dollars is leave it as is. You know, if in the future there's a definite need or request, you know, I think it could be addressed then with
Okay, so I guess I'm not really sure why we're dancing around this, but there has been a request and there has been helicopter landings next to a large boarding horse farm on E Road. And the gentleman who bought the property said he's going to continue to land his helicopter there on a daily. I'm not sure why we didn't open with that. And I have gotten phone calls from the woman who owns the farm and the woman who owns the farm next to that saying that their animals were hurt and injured when this helicopter kept landing. So I say, stop dancing around it. We're against it.
It's
There
not-
should not be helicopter landings in, you know, I'm sure Laura wouldn't want one landing next to her farm when her horses are out in the paddock. I don't want one landing next to my farm
Providing.
where the horses are out in the paddock. And I'm sure you don't want one landing next to your farm and neither do our constituents. So
Yeah, but-
mine
Mars.
is
We
no.
have,
I want them.
the reason we didn't lead with it is we haven't been informed of regular landings anywhere.
Well, I have been informed by residents of the farm that I don't want to name in particular, that and by their neighbor, that this helicopter has landed on more than one occasion and that it was a problem and that the person who has bought it said he will continue to land his helicopter there. And I say absolutely not. So whatever we need to do, if doing nothing, like Robert said, and saving the town money formally prohibits it, because if it's not accepted, it's not permitted, then what we need to do is code
Code
violate
enforcement.
that person and like sooner rather than later and stop the helicopter landings and let him know that it won't be acceptable.
that could be a citation also, since you caught somebody in the act.
Marge, hand up.
Marge has her hand up. Go, Marge.
Yes, I agree that this should not go through. We have a rural designation. We have so many different kinds of animals, birds, and you name it, we've got them. And I don't see why we should be traumatizing them when all along we've been trying to protect everything. So I say no, leave it alone. Leave the wording the way it is, I guess. Or if you want to stop it, going forward and make people have to jump through hoops, make some wording, you know, that would do that.
What about ground to air missiles? We could take care of it that way. You'll never land that helicopter again. It's just a thought.
So firework people.
You have.
What-
Confiscate
Confiscated,
orders
that way,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
shoot down the helicopter. Perfect plan. Okay.
Confiscated.
Good idea. Okay, so I hear clearly a consensus. So
We have a
very much
consensus.
and that whatever, we need to take action against the person who,
We have to code enforce, and,
and I think maybe let
Yes.
it,
Yeah.
yeah,
the FAA is not the answer. It's the state of Florida is the one that licenses it. It's the FAA won't worry about it unless it's interfering with flight patterns.
and just for the record, we all agreed on something tonight. There you go. Item number 11, write it down in your calendar. Okay. On to item number 12, discussion of roadways and drainage, Mr. Gallant.
Good morning, Madam Mayor, council members.
Good morning.
Yes, he did.
It's morning somewhere. It's been a long day. I'm still at about 8 o'clock AM. Before you on page 254 is our monthly road drainage and emergency management update. I'll just go over some of the highlights. Contractor doing the paving work has completed all the paving that they're going to pretty much do this year and then put in all the speed bumps. We're currently waiting for them to, for the asphalt to cure so they can put the final striping. Right now, what they have is temporary striping down on all the roads. We are continuing to remediate the road drainage swales as part of the program. And we're also building the equestrian paths. We started on East Citrus. That one's pretty much done. We just need to feather it out a little bit more, but so far nobody's complained. So it's a good sign. Let's see here.
I have a question. Citrus.
Sure.
There's pavement and a mailbox. Like right from E Road going east, where right before the park.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying, mailbox kind of in the road. Who moves the mailbox? You guys?
Yeah, well, I'll have somebody on look at it. They're supposed to be
Because at
between,
night, you're not gonna see, you're gonna hit it.
yeah, postal regulation says it's supposed to be between 2 and 8 inches from the edge of asphalt.
All right, but mailbox, dirt road originally.
Right.
So
No, we'll go look at it. I'll
Thank
send
you.
somebody over to look at it. Most of all the, I think we discussed earlier, all the debris, actually, no, we discussed it today, or that's why I said it's been a long day. All the tree debris has pretty much been cleared from the storm. We have one resident who still has some stuff. We told her, give us a call. We'll have Coastal go over there and pick all the stuff up. It's not really that big of an issue. We did receive it's not on here because we literally just received it, but we did receive our dump truck on Monday. So it is in the yard. There was a slight issue with the license plate. They got us a county tag instead of a city tag. So we have an appointment with the Department of Motor Vehicles next week to correct that. So we're not
did the
incorrectly
county pay for
identified.
it for 2 years?
Oh, our tags don't expire. Yeah, none of our tags actually expire, but no, it's just a matter of going in, swapping the tags out, and they'll give us a different tag. It's not that big of a deal. But yeah, we do have the dump truck arrived. It's in one piece. It runs and it went through, we actually went to Freightliner first and they went through it and checked everything. And then we took delivery of it on Monday. So we'll start using it this week. Otherwise, most of the stuff is pretty much, I think we've talked about in the past. We've got some future trainings coming up right now. The Public Works Superintendent is at an Asphalt 1 and Asphalt 2 training in Miramar. And then in March, he is going to be doing the Certified District Manager course. And actually tomorrow and Thursday, our Public Works Coordinator is attending the Certified District Administrative Professional course in Sanibel, I think. So we've identified 64 different online training opportunities for various employees and staff, including our public information officer, town manager, the emergency management director, and other officials here in the town. These are all free classes online, and the goal is to try to get them all completed before the next hurricane season, so all of our staff is better trained. We have removed all of the Australians with the exception of 2 on Hyde Park. Our staff has started yesterday, removing all the stumps. So we hope to have those all removed by the end of this week. And then we'll start reestablishing the swales, digging out the pond and clearing out the canal to F Road so that the drainage will be more effective on Hyde Park as a whole. And that's about it.
I have a question.
Questions, comments?
Please, go ahead.
So a while back, I sent you guys pictures of, and it may have been around maybe tornado time, but it's South D Road across from Big Dog Ranch on the west side of the canal. What they did was they put all their debris along the canal, and I sent you pictures. I said it's going to fall in the canal, and it is all in the canal. There are tenants on the property. They also occasionally put a big porta potty on the side of the canal, which I'm not sure if it's an actual porta potty. And,
Is that the nursery
yes,
by,
across from
Yeah,
Big
I-
Dog, right before
I know where you're talking.
5-Star.
Yeah,
on-
we've been talking to them about, they were actually cleaned up the canal bank for us.
Well, I just went by. It's,
I'll go by there and look at it again. I thought they were cleaning it up. They're supposed to be cleaning it all
I
up.
think they just pushed it in.
We'll go look at it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we're in the
but-
process of clearing, our staff actually today was out and we were there last week, starting at Gruber, working our way on. Yeah, Gruber, working our way south, trying to clear the west side of the canal bank on on that D. canal
Well,
bank.
I think we have a ticket book and I'm not sure how we're throwing debris into the canal, but that should be something, I would think.
Yeah, we'll go look at it.
Um,
I'll go look at it
because
tomorrow.
that hinders the flow.
Where are my trails?
Working on it.
River.
You're working on it? Okay. All right. Thank you. So anybody else have any questions for Mr. Gallant? Robert? Laura?
I'm good.
Okay, then we can move on to the regular agenda. And we have to recess the town meeting. And I'm gonna, I was gonna recess for 5 minutes so I could go give my brother a hug who just flew in from Tennessee, but then he left, so I'm not gonna do that.
No, it's just still there?
We're gonna call, he's probably in the bathroom, he can wait. Okay, we're gonna call to order the district's Dependent Water Control District meeting.
Okay.
Okay, this is item 13.
Yeah, this is the annual landowners meeting. It's been noticed as such. The primary purpose of the landowners meeting was to elect a board every year. Since you are a dependent district and pursuant to the code and the special act, the council is the board. We don't have to do the election. We did want to take advantage of this opportunity to clean up some areas which had not been addressed in a while. There had been a district administrator back in 2018 that was reporting to the town manager. That relationship no longer really exists. So to clarify things and be consistent with the contract that you've entered into your managers, we wanted to have a district resolution that appointed the town manager as the district administrator. There is also the issue of the district engineer. Back in 2018, there was a resolution that appointed the town engineer as the district engineer. At that point in time, the town engineer was specifically identified as Keshavar and Associates. In the most recent contracts, with our outside engineers, we have not designated anybody per se as the town engineer. They're the town's engineers for the various projects they work on. So that prior resolution didn't make much sense from the district standpoint because we don't have a specified town engineer. We're recommending.
He is our town engineer,
No,
correct?
he's our public works director. He is not appointed as the town engineer. You have not
Okay.
done that as a town. It is not, there's not a requirement that a town or municipality have an engineer. There is a requirement that a district have a district engineer. So one of the things we're suggesting you do is that you pass a new resolution appointing Mr. Gallant as the district's engineer.
Do
And
we have to give him more money?
no, but we're not gonna cut back his salary.
I like that. He said no.
There had been at previous meetings questions as to whether the town attorney is also the district attorney. That 2008.
Excuse me 1 second, Jeff. Laura, did you have a pressing question, or do you want to wait for him to go through the whole item for your question, or did you have a question on something he said already? Or do you want to wait for the
I'm
rest
sorry.
of the item?
I will try and remember.
No, ask him your question, because I know
Yeah.
how that is. You forget.
ahead.
Go ahead, ask your question.
I'm sorry. I
And then
didn't-
Robert, I'll give you the same opportunity.
Wasn't Mr. Peters our district administrator?
I don't recall.
Not formally.
Then what was his job?
Public
He was a
Works
public
Director.
works director.
Okay. What's the difference? Who do you work for?
He works for the town.
Okay.
But when the resolution was passed in 2018, that was at the time where you were converting over for, with some employees having been district employees. And there was this reference in there that, the district administrator is going to report to the town manager. And that was a reflection of the fact that there was a specific appointed district administrator. As far as I can tell in the job descriptions that people have had, both Mr. Gallant and Mr. Peters were the public works directors, and they were not specifically the district administrator. So they didn't have powers beyond that.
I'm going to add two things. What Mr. Kurtz is referencing to in terms of 2018, that was the dependent district merger meeting where the town and the district both adopted resolutions. So the last time there was a district attorney or a district administrator appointed was at that meeting. At the time, the district administrator was Steve Yohe. It wasn't ever changed to make it Mr. Peters. The manager's contract included the district administrator, and my contract does as well. So that's why we're trying to make a little cleanup here, since we haven't officially appointed since then. And I'm further going to add that we also decided that we didn't want a single town engineer. We wanted to be able to decide who could seal depending on what project they had. So that's why we did not, and that's probably why it's not required for there to be a specific town engineer.
Laura, does that answer your question? Kind of?
Keep going.
Robert, did you have a question to ask Matt?
Yeah, now's as good a time as any.
Okay.
I'm confused why you say designate the town manager, district administrator, okay. And then you say a person, district engineer, it should be the director of public works, district engineer. Why is one a position and the other a person? I think the resolution should be town manager is the administrator, director of public works is the engineer. That way
That's good.
it's consistent with positions, you know, it's
that's
part of your
good.
duty in that position.
The reason that I did not do that is that although there is not a specific statutory requirement that the district engineer be an engineer, there might have been that overall thought. And if your public works director was not an engineer, maybe you wouldn't want him to be the district engineer.
But couldn't you just change that appointment at that time? I
Yeah,
mean, right
you-
now, we are fortunate enough to have one that is.
You could, but that's, that was, you asked the
Maybe so.
question as to why the thinking was that there was different versus a person. That
Makes,
makes the
makes no
difference.
sense to me, personally.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if we're I agree with Robert, oddly enough, if we're cleaning it up, let's clean it up. Let's clean it up to where we are in this moment. And then if we have to clean it up again, if the moment changes. So
Not
be
a
it.
problem.
So be it, Laura.
I'm looking at the doom and gloom situation. So Francine is our town manager, and currently, in my eyes, right or wrong, Mr. Gallant is the district administrator. Francine's driving to work. One day she gets hit by a bus. Who is our leader?
You
The
have a-
district administrator.
You
Would,
ha- you
he's
ha-
second in command. So if you're carrying both titles, who's,
You, ha-
That-
you
That's
ha-
not
you
how it
have-
goes, Mr.
You have a
Kurtz.
you have a resolution, that, I think does appoint, Mr. Gallant, in the event the manager is unavailable.
No,
Like
it does
said-
not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The resolution does it, as Mr. Shore discussed, by position, and it's the Public Works Director who is
Yeah,
the second in
Yes,
command
that's what
if
I,
anything happened to me. And my contract says district administrator, so if you wanted to make the district administrator somebody else, that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. But if it's me getting hit by a bus, then you got the Public Works Director while you're figuring things out.
yeah. But the point of it,
Right.
Do me a favor.
I,
And just.
Drive carefully.
I mentioned that it was Mr. Gallant because,
Cars get
he
fixed
is the
Saturday.
Public Works Director. But the resolution appointing the person can be anybody.
Okay.
It does not have to be the Public Works Director. The attorney for the district in 2018, and there was a question that came up at a couple meetings ago with respect to whether or not the town attorney was the district attorney. And the answer is yes, because there was this resolution in 2018 that said the district attorney is the town attorney. Likewise, with respect to who the district secretary is, there is a resolution that says the town clerk is the district secretary.
Question. So when we had two separate entities, we had Viator and her group,
For the district.
who is currently Indian Trails. So how does that why is that law firm different than your law firm? Because my question is, are there certain qualifications or something that you need to have to represent the district?
Just being a member of the bar.
Yeah, but I love that loaded question. What makes us different? We're better. That's all.
I know.
And I've known Mary a long time, so I'll say that. No, it's just, we represent districts and towns both. I think
Okay.
We represent a bunch of districts in St. Lucie County, actually.
Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
Okay,
And then so we're not recommending that you amend the resolutions with respect to the district attorney or the district secretary. And the third thing is that, according to the statutes, you should have a published district calendar. That's resolution 2025 DD03. And we are suggesting that you make it the same as your town council meetings, and so that's attached.
I have another
so
question.
we have to recess for a district meeting at every town council meeting, even if there's
No.
nothing to discuss?
If there's nothing to discuss, there's nothing on there,
Okay.
but
My light's on.
I saw your light, Phyllis. I got you. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Phyllis.
All right, so question, Francine.
Yes.
No offense, Mr. Gallant. I would think that the manager should be able to decide who would take the helm in an emergency.
The manager does get to decide. The
Well, I think
resolution,
what we're doing now is we're saying it's Mr. Gallant, no offense, but I'm just saying, and I know Mr.
There's nothing to
Kurtz.
do.
no, we're appointing the required officials of the district. We have to report this list of officials, and we haven't formally done this since the date of the merger.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Also, you don't have to have Richard as it's the Public Works Director, not Richard. You don't have to have the Public Works Director as the succession, but the conversation when we did it was that we couldn't do the clerk because we'll put the clerk in dual reporting, you know? So you, at any time, like somebody said earlier, any resolution can be changed.
That's a different resolution. This is section. This
Yes.
is just appointing
Right.
district
And it's
officers.
just to clean up the district issue.
Correct.
Robert, you have a question?
Yeah, on 266, the schedule. March 4th, aren't we in Tallahassee? Are we meeting that first Tuesday in March?
Tallahassee.
Yeah, we need to change that. I was actually gonna ask on the next meeting to make some changes in the schedule.
We're gonna,
Well, to make it easy for the district and not have to have another.
Just
special
eliminate the meeting.
Amend it. If we've got a date in mind, let's do it now.
I don't mind
It would be the next week. in
turning
March.
into the water district for 15 minutes to get stuff done.
the 11th is the next Tuesday.
That's
Yeah.
And your clerk will not be available on March 11th because it's election day, so I will be down at the Supervisor of Elections office, probably pretty late.
Well, we can always decide to skip the March meeting.
No, yeah, right.
What's the next weekend in March and the next Tuesday in March after the 11th? Let's just do it on the 18th. Sometimes we do a second meeting anyhow. We'll just have to move it to the 18th. It's the first available time. Anybody have any objections to the 18th? Okay.
We'll just have to look and see whether or not that would be, the new folks would be seated at that time, or do they take office in April? I don't recall.
Last year we did it in April.
Our charter.
I don't remember.
It's the first regular business meeting following the election.
Days from the election.
Get up.
Anybody want to make a bet? It's the first regular business meeting following the election.
Okay, so the 18th would be when we would put in all the new officers
Not if they haven't been,
certified.
right.
From the 11th to the 18th, they'll be certified.
I don't know if they will.
Uh-huh.
One of them will.
One-
Mayor.
One certainly will. but one-
Well, if we have the meeting the 18th, that means the agenda has to go out the week prior, which is the same week of the election, which does not give us any time to put together.
Well, you can still put it out.
What's the following Tuesday?
You can hit March 4th.
It's the 28th, but we
If
have
the
a
election is
meeting.
March 11th and
Can
we
we do
have
it
to
on
get the
Monday?
agenda out the week prior to the
10th?
18th, that doesn't
Okay
give
with
us
the
enough
18th.
time to put our documents together.
But if you're getting an additional 2 weeks.
We would, it would.
What
be-
I'm saying is that we get the results on March 11th, correct? And so we still have to put our resolutions together because we have to appoint our mayor, our vice mayor again. We have to certify the results, which I probably won't have the official certified list.
I think what we're suggesting is you prepare for the meeting as if it's on March 4th, so you have your agenda out. And we have the meeting on March 18th with this council sitting. And that the April 1st meeting is where you install the new council, which is what would have happened if we hadn't moved the date. Is everybody in consensus with that?
And we just have to have confirmation. I don't know if Glenn's found it yet as to when it officially happens.
Or we could do it the Monday before the 10th. So the 4th.
The 10th is a safe date.
It's a what?
Safe date.
What's that mean?
We know who the council members are
Oh.
going.
Thought that was the new holiday or something,
No.
right?
I know, I was like, is that?
Why don't we just do an April meeting? We'll just do an April meeting.
Throw that out there. I'm not okay with skipping a month of meeting. We've got too much stuff. to
Yeah,
do.
I'm surprised we're on.
Absolutely not, absolutely not okay with that.
I'm not finding where the heck in here it says when they sworn in.
It does talk about the first regular meeting after the 4th.
Where's
Tuesday.
Todd? He'll
So,
know.
right. After the 4th Tuesday of each month, that's when you have to elect a vice mayor. But
We elect the mayor and the vice mayor the same
In
night.
the interest of brevity and finishing before 10 o'clock, can I suggest that you have this fully researched by February 4th and figure out
yes,
what it is? And our two propositions are either to do it on March 10th, which is the night before the election, but you could prepare for the agenda as if it was on the 4th and we just do it on the 10th. Or to do it, move it to the 18th.
I'm not for the 10th, I'm for the 18th.
Okay, and the 18th then, I mean, is everybody?
Marge, are you out there, Marge?
Yes, I'm here.
You hear me, trust me.
Oh, wait, I can do it at night. Okay, 10 o'clock.
What is your thought on this, Marge?
Well, how many people are going to be in Tallahassee on the 4th? That was the concern.
I am. Robert's planning on it. Phyllis is planning on it. So you will not have a quorum.
That is correct. What is Val's take on her ability to come forward with the agendas that are needed to run the meetings? What's your time frame, Val?
So there's a couple issues here. If we have the meeting on March 18th, that means we have to put the agenda out the week prior, which is the same, so we have the election March 11th. We still have to get the certified results, get all of our annual items prepared, because if you recall last year in April, we had quite a few resolutions that had to get adopted, and so if we're required to have a meeting right afterwards, that means we're putting a lot on staff to kind of have these documents ready. If we have the meeting March 10th, I'll tell you right now, I will not be at the council meeting. I have to be up at probably 5 o'clock in the morning to be at the polling location, make sure that my staff is there, and I will be monitoring the elections all day that day. And then that night, because the charter has not changed yet, I'm part of the canvassing board, so I will be at the supervisor of elections office.
So what are you most comfortable with, Val? Logistically wise, I mean, it's not fair for you and the staff to be put under unnecessary pressure if we can work around this in some way.
I'd say the 18th.
The 18th didn't sound like it was solving her problem.
But doesn't the 10th solve your problem if you prepare for it as if it's on the 4th, so you already have your agenda ready?
Right, I'm just letting you know, I will not physically be at that meeting. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you could have an alternate clerk
not?
that night.
God, because it's gonna be a freaking show.
Well, let me come back to when you get seated. We did finally found that.
They should have bet with me.
Should have bet with you, right? Council members are sworn into office at the first regularly scheduled meeting following their election.
So
So-
it would be at the 18th if we have it on the 18th.
That's going to be a regularly scheduled meeting.
That would have been our second meeting.
Right, right. So that's when they would get sworn in. Now, you could simply have a meeting on the 18th to swear people in and that's it. And then have your work come in April, because I'm thinking about this, you get newly elected people sworn in on the 18th. They're not gonna have any time to get up to speed. You're just gonna throw them in and say, okay, you're elected on the 11th. And a week later, here you are. You might want to schedule the 18th as a congratulatory meeting and maybe an overview of things like sunshine law, just basics of running government, and then do your regular meeting in April.
Sounds good.
Francine, how do you feel about skipping a? Okay, and then,
You can really ask that question.
well, we just have a lot of business, a lot to get taken care of, and I hate to push it off onto other ones. I guess we could have 2 meetings in February.
Well,
if
let
a
me
lot of
say
things
this.
Came up, or we could have 2 in April.
Well, I think that I was gonna ask you if we could have 2 in April.
Okay.
I was also thinking about rescheduling March, but if we skipped March, it would be okay to have 2 in April, because we do have a lot coming up. My big question.
But don't we still have the option of having Val put a substitute in and hold it on the 10th, like we had
Yes.
said?
Yes.
I like the 18th.
18th.
Then we like get it done. I'm leaning towards the 18th now instead of the night before the election. Why not?
But now won't have time.
Not if we don't do any business, not if we just have it be a swearing new officers, just have it basically.
Ceremony, overview.
Basic things and, swearing in.
all that.
Yeah.
And
I
then,
like that.
and then just have two meetings the next month. And the next month.
The
and
biggest
next month.
question I have is for Richard and Mr. Kurtz, and that is that we have the ITB going out for the drainage. And I think that the timing of that is really my question.
It was supposed to be, we were hoping to award in March, at the March meeting.
Okay.
But realistically, if it's March 18th or April 4th,
April first, I
or
think it
April
is.
3rd, April 3rd.
April Fools.
Yeah, it doesn't make a difference, I guess, when you look at it like that.
Maybe from a safety standpoint, you advertise March 18th as a regular meeting, just in case there's some critical item that absolutely has to be voted on that day, you can do that. Right, with the understanding that, only critical stuff, only something that really is critical. So for
So if
example,
there's
if
a
it's, if
runoff,
it's,
we may not even have the other candidate.
Correct, we might
Right.
not.
I say March 10th, business as usual, knock it out.
But
and
if
then-
if there was a runoff and we didn't have the fourth person, which I don't think there's ever been a runoff in the town, but if there was a runoff suddenly and we didn't have the fifth person, we would have forward a quorum, right? Can you
That's
do
true.
that without the fifth seated? Okay,
true.
so then let's do the 18th and just make it be that. Yeah.
so the 18th,
Perfect.
the 18th
Okay, so I need a
ceremonial
motion.
overview and.
We-
I think you would have, I think you'd have,
every place.
you'd have the fifth no matter what, because I think they get replaced. They stand in their office until their, the new seat is.
Right, so
replaced.
if there's a
So-
runoff, then Mr. Shore would come and sit on the
Yeah, you wouldn't
18th
have a certified
for the
person
meeting
by
that
Right.
all we're gonna do is
following
bring in
their
the new people.
elections, so those
if
other
we have the
people
first
wouldn't
runoff
be
in the history of
elected yet.
Loxahatchee Groves.
Yeah, at this particular
There's
election.
4 candidates, there could be.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna happen.
Okay, well, as I'm saying, if we have the first runoff in the history of Loxahatchee Groves, Robert, you'll get to sit for another meeting. Okay, are we good?
Yep,
You gotta vote on this item.
make a motion.
Okay.
Well, where's the, hold the
To
phone.
move the March fourth meeting to March
Well,
18th.
Oh, make a motion.
Wait, okay.
We're just.
Right now, we're
fixing
still in,
this
you're
today.
still in the district,
Right.
okay?
Oh,
And so if you want to make the motion for the district, and we're gonna, what I would suggest you do is consider resolution 25 DD1, the town manager to be the district administrator first, then resolution on appointment of the district engineer as the public works director as that. And then when you're dealing with 25 PDO3, change the date here for the district meeting. And then when you reconvene, understand that you'll have to give us direction as the town council.
Okay.
okay, making a motion to approve.
What he said.
Resolution 25,
Yeah.
2025 DD01 as written.
Yes, as written.
Okay, making a motion. Oh,
Second.
okay.
Motion made by Phil, seconded by Robert, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Pass.
Okay.
Laura, did you're an aye?
Opposed, because I still don't get it. So
Okay, Laura's opposed, but it passes 4-1. Okay.
Making a motion to approve resolution 2025 DD02 as written.
Not as written, that
Oh,
will be
with-
the public works director to be the district engineer.
With the public works director to be the district engineer.
Second.
Second.
Okay, seconded by Robert. Motion made by Phil, seconded by Robert, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Motion to approve resolution 2025 DD03, changing the March 4th date for the meeting to March 18th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
I have one question before we leave this district meeting.
Okay, go.
Well,
Where is resolution 2018 DD04?
You said we didn't need a DDO.
well, the memorandum indicates that it was going to be attached. And when we were putting together the agenda, it did not get attached. I apologize.
That's right. Can you email that to me tomorrow, day, whatever?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And why isn't it in here? Why?
It just got skipped.
It,
dropped.
it got missed when we were assembling the,
Did we have to vote for it?
that was 2018. I was referring to the 2018 resolution that had already been passed so that you could see
Make a
why we're making
comparison.
that change.
Oh, okay, thank you.
It's not something you would have voted on.
And
All
Laura's
right,
wanting it for comparison
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
purposes. And I think we should all have it, so.
I will
Thank
send
you,
it
sir.
out.
Okay, can I adjourn this now? Laura, you good?
Yeah, thank you.
Did you want to just accept the district engineer's report or?
Is there any place here?
Make a
for it?
motion to receive and file.
Okay,
Second.
Is there,
all in favor?
Aye. Marge,
What?
Robert, buy that?
I said thank
Okay,
you.
passes
Oh,
5-0.
you're welcome.
District's report. We are now adjourning the district meeting and reconvening the town council meeting. We have some informational items, the January 2025 calendar, number 14.
So just please notice on there that we have a Red GAC meeting coming up. And what day is that? It's not on here. It's the 23rd at 6 p.m. And the reason we have a Red GAC meeting is twofold. Both would have been said by Richard at some point in one of his reports. One is because we are making applications for grants, and the trails grants are twofold. There's a transportation alternatives grant, and we're going to put the previously put forward TPA multi-purpose path and crossings grant forward, not the roundabout, that's separate, but we're going to put the trails grant forward. And we're also going to ask for the trails to go up F so we can connect. So that's what we're going to ask from the TPA. And in addition, in the same time period, we also need to apply to, if you heard Mr. Book talking about BRDAP and Florida Communities Trust and all that, they all come from the same area. And there is a Florida Trails Grant open, which we're going to apply for the North Road Trail. And whatever else they come up with when we talk in RecAC, we're going to take their input. I've already heard from Darcy a little bit about safety and the signage, so maybe it'll be for the signage. So that's purpose one of that RecAC. And then what we would do is on your February meeting, we will tell you what we're
Yeah.
applying for. And then the other thing that RecAC has before it will be something that'll go out to you at the same time. And that's a draft of the roadway standards. Below, obviously, the Florida Green Book standards, and less than the standards from the 2006 roadway engineering study. Richard's putting some finishing touches on it, and we're basically going with what we've been using for standards in our solicitations and the as is. Richard, you want to say anything about that? So you'll be transmitting that to RecGAC and to the council, because what we want to do is what we've done on things in the past, and that is if we have council comments, do them as topics without names, so that the group can address, council, if council has any items they want RecGAC to address. And of course, talk to your appointees.
And the 23rd date, I think, is still subject to confirmation of a quorum. from
Right,
that.
so far it looks like we're gonna have it, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Anybody have anything to say about that calendar? Nope. Okay, you don't need us to do anything, right? No.
No,
All right, let's talk about National Bird Day.
Don't have to, you already did your
So what?
resolution.
We already did the resolution.
Yeah, and on future agenda items, you know, we're actually kind of staying to it. Of course, it's like going to the candy store. We buy more than we can eat, but, we have been cycling a lot of stuff through. I don't know if you realize that. So the next, agenda probably will not have, but that depends on some conversations with our attorneys. The, civil citations and the code enforcement, we're gonna talk about that tomorrow. I don't know if we're gonna be able to make it in time for the February meeting. But
And
otherwise,
helicopters.
well, helicopters isn't coming on. It's
That's
not
been
coming on.
resolved.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
right.
and we also decided that, roadway, we know that we don't need a first reading on an ordinance for roadway standards, because that's gonna be in Red Gag.
Yeah, the February 4th, that looks like a little bit more than we can.
Right, we went through that today. And the tree ordinance, non-conforming lots, sod farm and water control plan, we're moving to April. Naturally, contracts over
What is
25.
non-conforming lots?
Yes,
Anything
I
under
can,
5 acres.
yeah,
Right? What about them?
well, some of them are actually, I'm never gonna say it correctly. Some of them are actually legal, they are legally non-conforming lots of record at the date of incorporation. And so, the way our code is written,
Are you
they
talking
would be
about the lots that
recognized.
don't currently have PCN numbers
No,
from the
No,
county?
but anything under 5 acres is now considered non-conforming in Loxahatchee Grove.
correct.
Well, it has been since '06, I'm sure, but, okay. But you're not talking about the lots that don't have, you know,
No,
Okay,
what I'm
all right,
talking about
that's-
is
that's all
that
I
we
wanted to
have
know.
a number of lots that are actually legally non-conforming because they were less than 5 acres in 2006. And so what we were trying to do is clarify the code on how they would be handled, so we don't play hot potato every time they, somebody comes in.
But we did do an ordinance regarding setbacks and all that for non-conforming.
Yes, we did. It's in the code.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when is non-conforming coming up?
Well, I think April-ish, we were supposed to have we actually have done mapping with the county. And our own research. I think that we had quite a bit of our own research on that. Jeff or Richard, if anybody wants to say anything, feel free.
I have a question. I live
Mhm.
on 2 acre lot, so am I permitted to speak on this? Because it is a townwide?
It's
Yes.
townwide, yes.
Thank-
Yeah. Yeah,
We can talk about it in April.
Okay,
okay.
anybody else have any questions about future agenda items? Robert, Laura, Marge? You good?
I'm okay.
Alrighty, staff comments, town manager, anything to say?
Good night.
Good night. Mr. Trosuvia, anything to say?
Happy New Year.
Okay, Mr. Galat, anything to say?
Oh, I got nothing.
Okay, Valerie, anything to say? Okay, Phyllis, closing comments.
So, I was at British Feed the other day, and La Hacienda is back to it. One of their girls got accosted at British Feed, taking trash out. And when they called the sheriff told them that they should pay $250 a day to have a sheriff on their plaza. This is what the deputy told them, which enraged me. I
I'll
was
talk to
hoping Captain Turner would still be here. All right, but I think we pay them enough. And I think what's going on at the Hacienda and the amount of garbage and all the craziness that goes on there in the evening, and it starts early in the evening. But these people are accosting the folks that work in that plaza. So I'm pretty sure that after the election of our new president, there is some sort of deportation thing, which I'm really hoping our sheriff participates in. Also, why is the sheriff not in our meetings either? Are they supposed to, one sheriff is supposed to be here throughout our meetings?
Captain Turner spoke with me about his need to leave at 7:15 and I said it was okay.
Okay, well, and I did see another sheriff in here,
He did have another.
but I
person
think he
come.
was here to escort the group of officials. I didn't feel he was here for us. That's it for me tonight.
Madam
Thank
Mayor,
you.
if I could, the clerk and I were just talking, you had adopted the new schedule for the district, not sure you did it for the town, you know, the meeting cancellations and everything did.
Oh,
Oh, so
So-
we need to.
You just need to make a motion to change that meeting, please.
I'll make a motion to change the Loxahatchee Groves Town Meeting to March 18th.
Second.
Thank you. From
All in
March 4th to
favor?
March.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Glenn, for
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
catching that.
Thank you for catching that. Mr. Nowski.
Who does our building inspections?
We have used both our building official and a company called Hybrid.
When did that happen? Like when did Highbird come back into our life?
Hybrid was only in our life since we started our building department.
Okay.
They were not previously in our life.
Oh, there was yeah, okay, the other company. All right,
Mhm.
never mind.
Mhm.
So we have more than one person who can go out and say this is okay and that needs,
Correct.
okay.
Yeah, we schedule them so that they try to get at least 5 in a day so that we don't waste time or money. But if we can't get them scheduled 5 in a day, we send our building official out and our building official does all the plan review.
And
And-
we're also,
Looking at a cheaper contract.
we're looking at additional contracts so that we have more options.
Mhm.
And then how do these officials, where does their money come from?
From building
Building.
fees.
Oh, permits and that kind of, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The way I understand it is there's a certain number of inspections, because I asked this question, there's a certain number of inspections built into each type of project. A roof project, I'm throwing out a number,
Yeah.
has 7 inspections. An electrical project has 3 inspections, and that's built into the cost per visit.
Mm.
The X amount per inspection.
Okay, but it doesn't come out of tax money for salaries or?
No.
No,
Okay.
it's for
Nope.
the inspections, we do that through a contractor in addition to the chief building official. And as I said, we're actually, we have discussions with somebody tomorrow for an additional company to come on board.
Okay, just curious. I was very torn on item 4, the vote for the Groves Town Center. And I'm still scratching my head about how this pork chop thing is just killing me. Absolutely killing me. I don't think we've done enough good homework and research about this traffic flow, and I can't.
Set it up and see how it works, and then we can come back. So I agree with you 100%.
I just-
think they're gonna- They'll be run over in a day.
And it's not only the destruction of the things, but I think we're going to be in for more flow than we ever could have anticipated, but that's, again, I think there should be more homework done in the back by the town, by P and Z, and by the developer. So enough said on that. We covered the line of sight gig. RVs. So how many RVs have made it through the process, start to finish?
I'm going to say about a dozen.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then my other question is, why is the application different than what we approved?
I don't know that it is. In what way?
People are saying that they're being asked to say who is in the RV and having to provide names and IDs and documentation. And then there was something else about a page where the applicant must fill this out. It's a hold harmless. I hold the town harmless for anything that may or may not happen on my property regarding an RV.
That's because I think we did that.
Let's let Jeff answer that.
Yeah,
Well, I was looking over at the manager and I'll
We
talk to
have,
Sandra,
yeah, well,
the
we'll
official
investigate it. We have
folks.
not
I
changed
I
anything.
think
I don't
that's for the
recall
people that don't want to say who's living on their property.
Well, I mean,
I-
as a council, we agreed
Yeah,
to strike
yeah.
that.
I
So why is it still in there?
I don't know that it is. So
Okay.
I will check on it and we'll
Yeah, we did.
report back to you on that tomorrow.
Thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you, Mr. Shaw.
Yeah, Tallahassee, January 20th and 21st. What's the agenda? Because 20th is MLK Day.
Correct, we're just flying up there on the 20th. It's a rally till you can't stop on the 21st.
Okay.
It's just a one day of hitting the key people.
All right, I'll be there.
Okay,
Just want to make sure nothing was happening on Monday. So Monday's a travel day.
Monday's a travel day.
Cool.
As
And
is
thank you
Wednesday.
for getting with them because last year we got there late and they had to do an addendum to get us in the budget. So this meeting is to get there early because Palm Beach County
Correct.
Days is
More
obviously
Palm Beach
at
County.
the end. So yes, it's very important.
Correct. That's it.
Yes, thank you.
Wow.
Oh, Happy New Year.
Marge.
Yes, I have a question about that arena that's being built on B Road. It seems like it's very close to the road. Is someone monitoring the distance from the edge of the building to the edge of the road?
Yeah.
They could
Yes.
put it on
What is that?
they could put it on their survey line if they want.
Okay, all right. As far as the issue with the traffic at B Road, hopefully that C Road going east will be put in sooner. You know, maybe that's one leverage that we can use for them to get the traffic moving away from B Road and let it move forward more quickly than where they need it for their hotel or their restaurant. So that's all I have. I'll be back in town Saturday. Bye-bye.
26 black.
Safe,
Okay,
safe travels, Marge.
all right.
So the only thing I have, when we talk about this, Laura brought up this line of sight thing. It's a huge concern, but what I've noticed in my commutes through town is that there are some key places where people coming off of side roads or out of side businesses do not stop.
Ever.
They chronically do not stop. And I don't know what we can do about it. I mean, is there anything officially that we can do about the fact that nobody ever coming out of MJC puts on their brakes? I mean, they come flying out of that operation every morning. And afternoon, I take my life in my hands driving by there. There are some other places what is that street, the 24th right there? there's an accident there literally once a week, every other week, because that intersection notoriously, people just drive. They just come out the intersection. They, there's stop sign there. There's a stop sign
The
at
only-
that intersection, which they don't stop for, and then they get cited for, but that doesn't help the person who's sitting there with a dent in the side, a wishbone dent in the
Targeted
side of their car. I mean.
We could pay an extra $250 to have them
Targeted
sit on the
enforcement,
side of the road.
Right.
Yeah, like when you have speeding problems and things like that, or you have those
Right.
situations, you can try to teach people by having an officer there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, do we post an officer? Ask the officers.
move
to say that
around.
These certain key,
Well, see if Captain Turner can't put somebody at F and Okeechobee.
yeah, and there's literally every single morning because I leave every single day at the same time, pretty much from my house. And every single morning at 6:30, when I make my right onto North Road, coming from that other side of North Road, there is a car full of guys going to work that comes through that stop sign and doesn't even tap the brakes coming through that stop sign, just keeps right on going, coming at me, and then proceeds to, if I didn't pull all the way over to Ginny and Mike Swale, which I know when I see their lights coming, I'm like, whoop, get out of the way, and I pull all the way over, and then they proceed to come right down the middle of the road. Now, technically, they have the right of way because they're on the canal side at that time, but they don't even tap at that stop sign. It's every single day. And I'm just talking about the ones that I encounter. I know from talking to people that there are a number of other places throughout town that people just, I don't even brake check coming out of these intersections. I don't know whether there's some kind of signage, whether there's some kind of I don't know. I don't know what to do, but as we get more traffic on our roads, which we have now, it's becoming increasingly an issue. There's more and more accidents. So I'm just putting it out there. I don't have the solution. I don't even have a creative solution. I'm just putting it out there. That people need.
Ground to missile.
There, we're back to the borders. Laura, I'm just not sure. I realize the last frontier is part of our thing, but I'm just not sure that Wild West thing is gonna work, but. Yeah, right, yeah, whatever. Anyhow, thank you, everybody, for a productive meeting. Happy holidays, happy new year. Let's make this a really productive year for the town. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting, please?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Hey, Marge, second it.
Second, Robert.
I think Marge said bye-bye earlier.
Yeah. Where'd we get these books?